Channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
11Alive News Primetime on the ATL starts now.
We are 1 hour away from curfew in the city of Atlanta and on the 6th night of protests downtown. This is a live look near Centennial Park, where a large group of protesters has gathered throughout the day. We see that crowd has remained peaceful there, met once again by a large presence of local police. It is when we get a little bit closer that we start seeing more state police and the Georgia National Guard deploy out there as we get closer to the 9 o'clock hour, Ron.
And tonight, Aisha, we're also hearing from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who says that she will issue an executive order establishing a commission to examine the use of force policies. And then later on in the broadcast, we're going to hear a message from former President Barack Obama that spurred that executive order. Thanks for joining us, everyone, on 11Alive News Primetime. I'm Ron Jones, remote here. And right now, we are watching a peaceful demonstration downtown and waiting for that curfew to begin in the city, Aisha.
That is when police move in and arrest any protesters who do not leave on their own. We have team coverage tonight downtown, starting with Ryan Kruger. Ryan, can you give us an idea of the atmosphere or what we may expect over the next hour? It's been peaceful.
It has been. In fact, take a look at this, actually, Aisha. For the last really about 10-15 minutes, you'll see behind this police line, it's almost all the protesters are actually either sitting, many of them are kneeling, and they've been doing this really for the last 15 minutes or so. This has been kind of their message tonight. We have heard from multiple speakers coming up and saying that they will not allow any kind of violence. I have not seen any bottles thrown, anything along those lines tonight. Really no one, antagonizing police as we've seen nights before. It really has been peaceful all along. One interesting thing that has happened the last few minutes, in fact, one of the police officers came over and said, where did this come from? You see all these cars that are parked at the intersection here of Marietta and Centennial Olympic Park. Those are just protesters' cars, presumably, who all just came up, and you'll see there's several of them there all blocking the street. Now, that will be interesting to see what happens, because normally what has happened every other night whenever police move in at 9 o'clock for their, when they start moving the tear gas and start trying to get people to get out of the way, everybody starts going that way down Centennial Olympic Park Drive, and right now you're seeing that the cars are actually blocking that way. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on here as we get closer to the curfew. If those cars are still there, if people are trying to run through it, they're going to have to be dodging all those vehicles. So could be a little hairy situation for them there. But yes, as you said, tonight has been an incredibly peaceful night. Every maybe half hour, 45 minutes or so, you'll see a large group of them start to march away. A lot of them are marching to the Capitol, and then they'll march back. More and more protesters have joined in throughout the night. But that has been the scene here tonight. Not a whole lot of a confrontation between protesters and police. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of civil conversations between the police officers on the front lines and the protesters that are here. And a lot of the protesters saying they're not going to stand for any kind of violence tonight. Guys?
Which is great news. Okay, Ryan, so behind where you are, or where those bicycle officers are, do you see any National Guard troops? Because last night we just saw waves and waves of National Guard troops actually show up. Are they there now where you are?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Aiden, let's turn the camera here behind us and show. So this is right in front of the CNN Center, and you'll see there they all are the National Guard troops. Now, one thing I will say tactically, their lineup is a little bit different than what it has been in nights before. So every other night that I've been out here, you've had this line of bicycle officers right here, kind of in this stretch where you see it's just the empty street. Usually there are more cars. Sometimes you actually have the police out in riot gear, and then you have the National Guard behind them. Now, we haven't had any kind of confirmation as far as why we're not seeing the tactical change, but I can say that the protesters, when they see the officers in riot gear, it really does upset them. One of the cheers they were chanting earlier was, "There's no riot here, so why are you in riot gear?" And, you know, possibly that message was given across, but there definitely are officers in riot gear in other parts, just not really visible at this point in time, Ron.
All right, thanks a lot, Ryan.
So curfew begins at 9 p.m. tonight and tomorrow night, but then there's a switch. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, curfew will start at 8 p.m., an hour earlier. Every night, the curfew ends at sunrise. Until today, the city has been issuing the curfew on a day-by-day basis. The curfew does not apply to anyone who needs to seek medical help, those who are working, and the homeless. Chanu Hur was downtown when the curfew started last night, and he is back on the ground for us again today. Does it feel similar to last night out there, Chanu?
Yeah, Aisha, it is still very similar to what it was last night. As far as the crowd size goes, it's very similar. It looked like this around this time yesterday, which we're about a little less than an hour from the 9 p.m. curfew. But you can see the crowd, for the most part, most of them are sitting down or kneeling right now, and it's been peaceful. There hasn't been anything going on that has led this protest to get out of hands or anything like that. It's been peaceful. I mean, significant earlier, a group came up and talked to us, which identified themselves as Bloods and Crips, and they walked up together and they talked about now is the time for unity, now is the time to come together, talking about why it's important to keep this protest peaceful, why it's important to keep all of this peaceful. And it's gonna be like this, probably, my guess is, for the rest of the night into the curfew. Yesterday it was similar. It thinned out a little bit before the 9 p.m. curfew, but again, Aisha, similar to what it was yesterday in terms of crowd size and around this time yesterday.
Chanu, I'm just looking at the photo that you tweeted out of those members there who identified themselves as members of the Bloods and Crips and holding up their respective colored bandanas. Tell me, what was that moment like, especially with sort of setting the vibe there for the rest of the crowd?
Yeah, definitely. When I saw that, it definitely energized the crowd a little bit. And it wasn't just me who saw that, and it kind of caught my attention. Other people, other protesters here really were drawn to that, and they were asking them questions. They were cheering them on. And one person who was out here who was speaking a lot about that is Pastor Troy, who is a musical artist here in Atlanta. He talked a lot about how significant that moment is, and for people who see it later or see it at home, he told me that he wants people to know how significant it is for these young men to come together and display something like that for everyone to see. And basically their message is this whole thing is bigger than any differences they have, and it's meant to show unity, and it's meant to show that Atlanta can get together for a bigger cause.
All right, Chanu, very powerful moment. We are glad you were there to capture it for us. Thank you so much.
You know, guys, a large part of the protest has been marchers going to the state capitol in downtown Atlanta, continuing their march and then returning back. That's where we find 11Alive's John Sherrick right now. John?
Well, we've been back and forth between the state capitol and here, and now we are at the staging area that you and Ron and Ryan were just discussing a moment ago. This is where the National Guard, Georgia National Guard troops are standing at ease, waiting for orders to move in if necessary. You can see Atlanta Police Riot Squad getting into position, and here are armored vehicles from Atlanta's police SWAT team at the ready in case they are needed. And off to the right, you can see just down Centennial Olympic Park Boulevard, you can see the line of Atlanta police officers waiting to move in to tell the crowd that they must go home if in fact it comes to that just before 9 o'clock, as it has really every night now so far. And what we're seeing are people who don't want their message to get lost in all of this. They continue to repeat. They want people to remember George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and so many others who have been caught up in violence and confrontations with police across this country and certainly here in Georgia. And so that is foremost on everyone's minds. That's what's bringing everyone out here night after night, the 6th night in a row. And we'll see if this becomes a nightly event now for the next few nights, as the city of Atlanta obviously is prepared for anything in the next few nights as this protest continues. So we'll give it back to you, and we'll continue to monitor the situation where we are.
All right, John, thanks a lot. Appreciate that, sir. You know, protests have been happening all across Metro Atlanta this week. This was the scene during a march in Marietta Square earlier today. People chanting and held signs calling for justice for George Floyd, who was killed by police in Minneapolis. And protests have been happening all across Metro Atlanta this week, as we just pointed out of what's taking place not only there, but in Minneapolis.
I love it. I seen the Covington Police Department put it on their Facebook page, and that's where it really just got out to the people. And I love the turnout, and I just love that everyone's peaceful, everyone's respectful.
And in Covington, 200 to 300 people gathered for a peaceful protest. The Covington Police Department actually promoted the event on their Facebook page.
As we cover these protests, we want to remind you why they're happening. These protests are fueled by a long history of systemic racism and accusations of police brutality in the United States. The recent deaths of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Ahmaud Arbery in South Georgia, and Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, all involve police or people with ties to law enforcement.
And 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks, of course, so let us know why you're protesting or how you're showing your support for those protesters out there. Just call us at the number on your screen, 678-765-9514. Leave a voicemail, leave your information, and we may use your message on the air. So let's take a live look outside once again as we see the protesters are gathered around in downtown Atlanta. And for right now, it appears to be peaceful. As we get closer to the curfew mark, hopefully it remains that peaceful for the rest of the evening.
And don't forget, we are streaming right now on the 11Alive YouTube channel. Subscribe and join the conversation in the community section. More 11Alive news in prime time coming up after the break.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both.
Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory.
A live look tonight over downtown Atlanta from above and on the ground as we are about 45 minutes away from the curfew. If you have your cellular device nearby, you have gotten the alert from the city. The public safety alert has gone out on our phone saying that the entire city of Atlanta begins curfew tonight at 9 p.m. and continues through sunrise tomorrow. But we're seeing a little bit of a different scene there. You see those people sitting down. As we are about 45 minutes from curfew, we have crews on the ground to give us the vibe and to tell us what the energy is tonight. Let's head to Ryan Kruger for that.
Yeah, Aisha, so we were just hearing from some protesters, and just about a few minutes ago I was talking about how many of them were sitting down, and you'll see that that is still the case. Not as many as before. There's still a large group standing behind them, but apparently what some of the protesters have said over the loudspeaker is they're encouraging everyone stay seated, and they want everybody to be sitting on the ground at 8:50, so 10 minutes before curfew, and they're encouraging everyone to stay throughout the curfew. Presumably they want the visual of everybody sitting here peacefully at 9 o'clock, and then what they are saying is that they are basically then daring the authorities to release the tear gas onto them at that time as they are all sitting peacefully. Not sure if that's going to be a game changer or not for Atlanta police, so we're just going to have to keep an eye on that. But that is what some of the protest leaders here are saying when they get onto the loudspeaker. They're saying, everybody, when it comes time to 8:50, remain peaceful, sit down, stay seated, and I guess we'll just see what happens after that. Aisha.
All right, we will be here watching closely. Thank you so much, Ryan Kruger. So as we watch these protests, we're also tracking storms. Let's get you straight to Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb. Chris, I've been thinking about the weather has been perfect for people to be out and about protesting, having their voices heard, but things could be changing a little bit here soon.
You know, we're going back into that pattern that's going to be more of a summer-like pattern where we have the heat and humidity, and that just kind of develops some of these scattered showers, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Now, it's not widespread and not everybody gets hit, but it's just those pop-up showers that develop. So right now, nothing much going on in Atlanta. We've been tracking some of these showers and storms back into Alabama. As they have been moving closer to us, though, they have been weakening. Right now here in town, we are dry, no rain in our area now, but we had some showers a little bit earlier. Some of those that had some heavy rain in parts of Cobb County, North Fulton, up around Lake Lanier, those have all fallen apart. And even this rain that's back into Alabama, it was looking really impressive on Interstate 59 a little bit earlier. As that moves into West Georgia, it is a lot weaker now, and we have a few of those showers in Dade County, up into Whitfield, moving into Floyd County. And then as we move down a little bit more, you can see Cleveland and Randolph County, and then areas around I-20 and southward. That's where we have most of the lightning right now. We've got about 65 lightning strikes in the past 15 minutes out of that activity that's over to the west. You can see this getting closer to Cleveland and Randolph. We'll zoom in a little bit tighter. And some showers, a few thunderstorms in Talladega, over at Anniston. So folks in West Georgia, as it's starting to get a little bit darker now, from a distance, you may be able to see some of that thunder, some of that lightning, or maybe hear some of that thunder, but the rain is still really over to the west of us. And we think that trend is going to continue tonight, that as it moves closer to us, it's going to be weakening. But you can see around the southeast, we have a lot more of these showers that are around. Our atmosphere is changing. It's been very dry. We've been dominated by high pressure, but as that high moves out, we get more of a flow from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what's keeping us kind of humid out there and that better chance for some scattered showers. This is a live look in Rome as we're looking toward the west, and you can see some of those darker clouds there to the west where we see some of those showers around. Last hour we were 84, right now we're 83. Carrollton is 78. Rome, you've cooled down to 78 thanks to some of that rain-cooled air that is just to your west. It's kind of moving into your area. Most places are holding in the 80s. Athens, you're 82 right now, but you hit 92 earlier today. We have a new update in. This is the 8 p.m. advisory on Tropical Storm Cristobal. This is an intermediate advisory. We'll get another full advisory in around 11 o'clock tonight. But the storm is weakening a little bit. It's 45-mile-an-hour winds over land, and we think it's going to weaken a little bit more as it stays over land for the next day or so, next 24 hours or so. It comes back over water and starts to regain strength here in the Gulf of Mexico, moving northward. And we still think that by late Sunday into early Monday, mainly late Sunday, is when it's going to make landfall, potentially on the north central Gulf Coast. And we're here in Atlanta on the right-hand side of the system. And so what this is going to do is just going to enhance more Gulf moisture moving into our area to give us still some of those scattered showers for the weekend and into next week too. 86 for a high tomorrow, going with a 6 on the wazometer, some of those scattered showers around. Tomorrow's rain chance, generally scattered showers. We could see some stronger storms though in far north Georgia where there's a marginal risk there, where the main threats would be damaging wind, maybe some lightning and hail, but it's not going to be really widespread. In fact, you see those showers tonight diminishing. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds. At lunchtime, mainly dry, but then some scattered showers that'll be redeveloping here in the afternoon hours with a rain chance at about 40%. 40% also Friday and Saturday with highs in the mid and upper 80s. Rain chance a little lower Sunday, and then we'll feel more of the impacts from the tropical system for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, a 40 to 50% chance for showers going into next week.
That it's very important to come out here to show your support, because this could be him, this could be his brothers. We have to stand for something or we fall for anything.
Until there's a change in the system, then this is gonna keep happening.
I'm afraid of is my brothers and my nieces getting shot, being unarmed.
We're not angry at the police. We are angry at police brutality. We are angry at systematic racism.
This protest is different. I'm seeing people unite for the first time in years.
It's bringing us more together as a community, and I feel like that's needed in Atlanta. It's important that we take that stand and do it in a peaceful yet amazing and beautiful way and set an example for the rest of America.
Taking a live look over downtown Atlanta tonight on the ground, where you see protesters have started to take a seat as we are 40 minutes away from the 9 p.m. curfew. We'll take you back there live after the break. Stay with us.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast, not enough for you? Get even more at
Welcome back, everyone. Here's a live look downtown Atlanta where protesters are standing by. You can see many of them are gathering just like they have for the past few days. You see officers lined up there, the bicycle officers wearing the fluorescent jackets and trying to converse with some of the protesters there. We've heard reports from some of our reporters saying that some of those protesters are telling people not to bring any violence to this protest, to focus on George Floyd instead and honoring him. Let's get straight to John Sherrick. He's live down there. And the last time, John, we spoke with you, you were near the National Guard. And right around this time is when the National Guard begins to deploy to the front lines. Are you seeing that now, or is it pretty much calm?
No. Ron, we are here probably with the calmest people at the area of Marietta and Centennial Olympic Park Drive. The National Guard troops are here waiting. The Atlanta police officers are here waiting for orders to move in on the crowds to enforce the curfew at 9 p.m. if necessary. A few of them are strapping on their helmets, but they are just taking it easy right now because they have been through this before and they expect to have to do it again maybe in the next few nights. To the right, we see some of the armored vehicles that Atlanta Police SWAT team have brought out here for crowd control. These are vehicles we do not see very often, at least not since Friday, the Friday of last week when they brought them out for the first time in a while. They are usually used for crowd control during major protests, and they do not like to use them. They use them here mainly as a show of force, a way of sending a message, a visual message to the demonstrators who are just down the street. If you can pan over to the right, you can see how Atlanta police are forming the line where the demonstrators are waiting and perhaps holding a sit-down protest here the next few minutes. We'll wait to see for that. So it is one of our nightly standoffs. Everybody standing around looking at each other, waiting to see what the other side is going to do. And everybody hoping that it will all disperse peacefully tonight. Ron?
Yes, hopefully it will be peaceful. We're just 35 minutes away from curfew. And the big question tonight for a lot of folks is use of force. Protesters are concerned about use of force as well. So tonight, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms said that she will issue an executive order establishing a commission to examine use of force policies. Now, this comes after a message from former President Barack Obama that spurred that executive order. Listen in.
In some ways, as tragic as these past few weeks have been, as difficult and scary and uncertain as they've been, they've also been an incredible opportunity for people to be awakened to some of these underlying trends. And they offer an opportunity for us to all work together to tackle them, to take them on, to change America and make it live up to its highest ideals. And you should be able to learn and make mistakes and live a life of joy without having to worry about what's going to happen when you walk to the store or go for a jog or are driving down the street or looking at some birds in a park. And so I hope that you also feel hopeful, even as you may feel angry, because you have the power to make things better, and you have helped to make the entire country feel as if this is something that's got to change. Despite all that, a majority of Americans still think those protests were justified. That wouldn't have existed 30, 40, 50 years ago. There is a change in mindset that's taking place, a greater recognition that we can do better. The bottom line is, I've been hearing a little bit of chatter in the internet about voting versus protest, politics and participation versus civil disobedience and direct action. This is not a either or. This is a both and. To bring about real change, we both have to highlight a problem and make people in power uncomfortable, but we also have to translate that into practical solutions and laws that can be implemented. And so as activists and everyday citizens raise their voices, we need to be clear about where change is going to happen and how we can bring about that change. It is mayors and county executives that appoint most police chiefs and negotiate collective bargaining agreements with police unions. And that determines police practices in local communities. So today I am urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community and commit to report on planned reforms.
Once again, we're a little more than 30 minutes away from the curfew deadline as police officers are still out there. The good news, just looking at this picture, the officers are still engaging the protesters in communication and just talking things over, letting them express themselves. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here, the things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear.
Taking a live look over downtown Atlanta tonight from Sky Tracker and from our traffic cams there at Marietta Street and Centennial Olympic Park Drive, where you see protesters on their feet 22 minutes away from the 9 o'clock curfew going into effect. We did hear earlier that protesters were taking a stand by sitting down. We're going to keep a close eye on that on the ground with Ryan Kruger, who is giving us live coverage as we get ready to approach curfew. Ryan.
Yeah, Aisha, we just heard some protesters who stood up and they were saying that at 8:50 they're all going to sit down and they want to hear from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. They say, we want the mayor downtown. They have all gotten to their feet right now. They have started to make a path, get a little bit closer to where all of the Atlanta police officers are set up here with their police line. And essentially right now we are just waiting in a little bit of a standoff to find out exactly what's going to happen next as far as who will be the next ones to come up and who will be their next move. But yeah, that is the plan right now. At least we're hearing from some of the protesters who are saying at 8:50 they want everybody to sit down and it will be a form of a sit-in protest, and then we'll see what happens after that. If they are on the streets past 9, you know, of course that does mean they can be arrested. So presumably, you know, even if tear gas or something along those lines isn't used, there could still be a lot of arrests. So we'll have to play it by ear and see what happens. But they say, I guess in the next 10 minutes, or I guess in the next 15 minutes is when they were all planned to start that sit-in, and we'll see from there, guys.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for bringing us that live report. Things could get very interesting here coming up in the next 12 to 15 minutes or so. Energy definitely changing. That has been the theme every night as we get ready to approach that 9 p.m. curfew. This is day 5 of the curfew that we understand has already been pushed into effect through the weekend, which over the weekend hours, it's going to start an hour earlier at 8 p.m. Let's get you back on the ground with Chanu Hur. Chanu, what are you seeing from your location? Tell us where you are. It looks like you're on the opposite side of Ryan.
Yeah, I am standing on the opposite side of Ryan, closer to the other side of law enforcement where the crowd is. So earlier you saw that most of the crowd was sitting down, but at this point it looks like they're all standing up now. We are a little less than half an hour away from the curfew, and I have noticed that some people are starting to leave. Now it's just a matter of how many more people are going to leave once we get closer to 9 o'clock. But for the most part, from eyeballing the crowd, it looks like it's still kind of the same size. So yesterday, when the curfew hit and tear gas was shot into the crowd, most people took off down Centennial Olympic Park. A few people ran down Marietta, but for the most part, they were pushed down Centennial Olympic Park. So we'll stay here and keep an eye on this and kind of see what happens once that curfew hits around 9 o'clock. Aisha?
All right, Chanu, thank you so much. 25 minutes away from that curfew. Now, we've been calling on local community leaders all across the metro to give us perspective of what they're seeing here. We're bringing in now Pastor Dr. Kevin Muriel of the Cascade United Methodist Church. Pastor Muriel, tell us, what are you seeing right now in regards to how the community is reacting? We are going into day 6 of these nationwide protests, and Atlanta is not backing down either.
Thanks, Aisha, for having me. I think one of the things that we're seeing is people are making their voice heard, and for so long, voices have gone unheard around systemic racism and social injustice. I believe that the coronavirus shut everything down but racism, and as Dr. King said, riots and protests are the voice of the unheard. And so I think what we are seeing is people saying, we're fed up, we've had enough, and now we're going to use our right to protest so that we can bring more awareness to the social injustices of our day.
And so what do you think the role of the church is in a time, in a climate like this?
Absolutely. The church is to be the conscience of the land, of the government of, and the church should stand, and not just the church or Christians, but the faith community should be the voice of the moral conscience of the land. And I think right now we need leaders who are of goodwill to stand and to ensure that the voices of those who feel unheard are heard. As a Christian, I follow Christ, who was marginalized and who was hung on a tree by the empire. Jesus stood against the empire. He stood for those who are on the margins. And I think if we are to follow, for me, the teachings of Christ, and if people of faith are to live out their faith, they should be for those who are on the margins of society.
I see you have a photo of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. right over your shoulder there in your space where you're Skyping with us from. As it relates to the peaceful protest that Dr. King was about and the non-violent tactics, what is your response to that as what we've seen unfold not only across the country, but how night one went in Atlanta and how things tend to take a turn as we get closer to that 9 p.m. curfew? What do you think that message is sending, and do we need to change course?
I think we need to stay the course. I think everyone who is protesting peacefully, I think, of course, we want to make sure that we adhere to the curfew. Please follow what the mayor has asked. And at the very same time, we understand that, Dr. King, and as you look at this photo, it says that hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And I do believe that the hearts of the protesters are in the right place, most of them. Now, when we talk about looting, you talk about destroying property, that those individuals have certainly have no connection to the peaceful protest. But when you talk about bringing awareness to the systemic evil of racism, I do believe that these protests are in order. And I am calling for the passage of HB 426, which is the hate crimes bill, because we have to get something out of this. Something must come from the days of marching and the long hours of crying and protesting. We must get something out of this. And so, as I said last night, I'm calling on Speaker Ralston and all of those who are in the state legislature, let's pass this hate crimes bill so that all that we've been doing would not be for nothing.
Pastor Muriel, thank you so much of the Cascade United Methodist Church. We thank you for your time and for joining us tonight with your perspective. Thanks, Aisha. We'll be right back. Not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during Primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast, not a All right,
Welcome back, everyone. Here's a live look once again. This is near Centennial Olympic Park, and we're just 13 minutes away from curfew time. And what's interesting here, Aisha, and Ryan Kruger had talked about it. We're going to get to John Sherrick in just a minute. But Ryan Kruger talked about this, that these are passive protesters who are talking about sitting in. So not confronting the police, but sitting in. So it'll be interesting to see how the police and how the National Guards respond to that. Do they move in quickly and scoop everyone up and take them to jail? So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. So let's get to John Sherrick. He is on the ground right now to give us a better perspective from the National Guard's point of view. John?
We are behind the lines, if you will, but we're not showing you anything that they don't want protesters to see. They want protesters to see this show of force with the National Guard troops, the Georgia National Guard troops. Now we're hearing some firecrackers going off just behind the National Guard troops. You might be able to see some Fulton County Sheriff's personnel. In a moment, you might be able to see what they are carrying. They are looking like rifles.
All right, we're having a little interference there with John Sherrick's shot. We heard those firecrackers starting to go off behind John. He is in the thick of the Georgia National Guard, and we see every night as we get closer to that 9 p.m. curfew, the National Guard tends to take over that skirmish line, Ron, and then we see APD and the more local agencies tend to fall back as the National Guard has been the agency that's moving in quickly. But tonight we were seeing a bit of a turn here from the protesters deciding that they're going to sit beginning at 8:50 p.m. It is now 8:44. They are calling on Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. And these are those cars that Ryan was talking about earlier that had really set up shop in the middle of the street in the area where protesters are usually moved back. So that's not going to be able to take place. If cars out there, we've been saying it's an interesting perspective since this started that the roads, especially right near Centennial Olympic Park, have remained open. So some of those protesters have set up their vehicles, you know, peeling out a little bit, and that was some of that smoke that you possibly saw a little while ago from those vehicles. But we are watching this closely. Guys, who are we going to next? We're going to go to Chanu. Let's go to Chanu Her on the ground. He is on the side of protesters right now. Chanu, what are you seeing as we get ready to approach curfew? We are 15 minutes out.
Yeah, Aisha, so just within the last couple minutes here, several people have started to leave the area. And as you guys mentioned before, just a couple of minutes ago, you did hear some firecrackers go up in the air there while John was on there. But yeah, some people are starting to leave. Some people are walking away. Looking down Marietta Street, on both sides, you can see down that way there are vehicles down there now blocking that off. So yesterday, those vehicles weren't letting people come in, but they were letting people out. But for the most part, some people are leaving. Besides the firecrackers, the crowd has been peaceful. Nothing has been going on over there. We are getting closer to the curfew, so we'll see what happens once that hits. But yesterday, the law enforcement did have to shoot out tear gas. So we'll wait to see if that happens again tonight. Again, we're a few minutes away from the curfew, about 15 minutes. So we'll see what happens and check back in with you guys in a bit.
All right, thank you so much, Chanu. We'll be back to you soon. Stick around. You're watching 11Alive News in prime time. We'll be right back.
The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during prime time. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers?
A live look tonight over downtown Atlanta as we are 10 minutes away from the 9 p.m. curfew. We do see more people starting to get up and move around a little bit, as protesters have said that they are going to stay there and sit down until the mayor comes out. Another vantage point that we are seeing from one of our sky cams right on Marietta Street in Centennial Olympic Park Drive. Peaceful protests have been going on all day, and that's been no different throughout any other day until we get a little bit closer. We have multiple crews on the ground. We're going to go back to Chinooher to give us a live. We're going to go to Ryan Kruger. Ryan is actually on the side of the National Guard. Ryan, does it appear that they're gearing up and getting ready?
Yeah, absolutely, Aisha. In fact, let's go ahead and start with that shot first. So, Aiden, we're going to turn the cameras here and see they just brought the vehicles here just about 5 minutes ago, and behind us is just swarms and swarms of National Guard, as well as it appears to be APD, many of them in their full riot gear. Almost all of them, I can see, do have their gas masks on, presumably to get ready, because at 9 o'clock each night is when they start to do the tear gas. And so this has been noticeable throughout all these protests. We're on night 6. Every other night, you've actually seen this display the entire night, right? This huge display of force. Tonight, this display of force was backed up, back the road. You know, there were protesters earlier saying that they didn't appreciate that there was riot gear. They said there's no riot here, so why are you wearing riot gear, was the chant that they were making. And possibly authorities did get the message, so they kept it back away. However, they are set up. I'm also looking right now on the other side of Marietta Street, where Marietta meets Ted Turner, and the National Guard has lined that entire street as well. The guardsmen, they have their shields up, and it does appear that they're going to start to block that road for whatever people start, in case that's one of the alleyways that people want to try to get out. Now, I am seeing a lot of people already starting to leave. You can kind of see this right here in this shot, because at 9 o'clock you are officially breaking curfew and you can be arrested. So a lot of people are certainly heading out. Now, we have here a lot of talk about a sit-in at 8:50, but here we are right now. It's about 8:52, and I'm not actually seeing anybody sitting down. So that does not appear to be the case, at least right now. But we will see what happens here in the next few minutes. In fact, actually, it appears, if we look in the crowd now, it does appear that that it has thinned out considerably. And I do know that a lot of them are leaving, but I'm not sure if everyone is. Just a few minutes ago, one of the protesters was on a blowhorn and was telling everybody, he said, stay calm. He said there are children here, so they don't want things to turn violent. They don't want there to be any kind of forceful arrest, anything like that. They don't want people getting hurt. They don't want children getting hurt. So they were really encouraging everyone to be calm. But, you know, just looking at the crowd right now, we had heard really for about an hour how at 8:50 they wanted to see a sit-in with everybody, and I'm just not seeing that right now. It does appear that most of the crowd has really started to thin out. People are walking away on the sidewalks at this point in time because they know at 9 o'clock that they risk being arrested. There is still definitely a strong number standing right there, not sitting, which is what we had been hearing about for a while. But that is the scene right now. So we will see what happens next. We're still a few minutes away, but that show of force is definitely presenting itself here. And you know, one other thing I will mention before we go, you'll see all of these officers here. So these are with the bicycle patrol. Now, what has been happening for the last several nights is that they'll set up all these lines of bikes here at Centennial and Marietta, and that's kind of the official police line. However, when you get closer to 8 o'clock each night, usually the bicycle police have started to back away, and the people on the front lines were the quote-unquote the riots, the police officers in the riot gear. We're not seeing that tonight. It's been the bicycle officers who, you know, do have, many of them have on their vests, but they're wearing shorts, they're wearing bicycle helmets, but no shields, no weapons out or anything along those lines. And I'm curious to see the 8:50 sit-in that we were hearing about from protesters for a very long time does not appear to be happening as we inch closer and closer to the curfew. And it seems like a lot of people have just decided to head out. And there's a small amount that are still sticking around, and we will see what happens in the next few minutes as it goes through. But it does appear that everyone else, the show of force is starting to get here, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Ryan. You know, that was my observation as well as I was looking at all the bicycle officers lined up. Usually they're in and out, and before you know it, the troops move up. And as a matter of fact, John Sherrick has been monitoring the National Guard right behind where Ryan is right now, behind the motorcycle, not the motorcycle, but the bicycle officers. So from your perspective, are they deploying there, John Sherrick? Are they deploying closer to the front line?
Yes, Ron, this is a little bit closer look than what Ryan was talking about here behind the lines as National Guard troops and Atlanta police with their shields and their riot gear move into position. And just over to the left, you might be able to see other troops and police, SWAT team, and sheriff's deputies in position behind 3-4 Humvees, ready to move in. This is what it takes to enforce this curfew every single night. They're hoping they don't meet resistance, obviously, but they are ready for any resistance that might come their way. Now, the troops have got their gas masks on. There are more, really, than I can count. As many as are gathered here. If we turn around behind us, you can see even more staged and ready to deploy if needed, with a tank. And to our left, to our immediate left, the Atlanta Police SWAT team armored vehicle, which they say they bring out for all major protests, but haven't brought out in a while. But they brought these out every night for the past 6 nights, including tonight. So we are poised for the 9 o'clock curfew to be enforced, and we will wait to see what happens.
Time now, 8:57. You are taking a live look over downtown Atlanta. We are 3 minutes away from the citywide curfew in the city of Atlanta as we go into night 6 of protests all throughout the nation, and Atlanta has been no different. we are witnessing a very different scene from above. Every night we've seen those protesters be dispersed via some sort of a tear gas or moving in from the National Guard. We don't even see a skirmish line set up right now with protesters. We see those bicycle units have dispersed, and the crowd seems to be leaving as well. We're going to bring in Ron Jones and Jennifer Bellamy as we get ready to join you now here in the 9 o'clock hour. Guys, this scene looks much different from 9 o'clock for the past 5 nights.
It certainly does, Aisha. Just as you were speaking there, we saw those bicycle clubs moving out of the way, and that's very different. I think this is something that we have not seen in previous nights before, where it really does seem as if that intersection is completely clear nearly at this point in time.
Ron, what do you think about what we're seeing?
Yeah, I really believe, well, what we saw last night with the huge show of force, when we were talking about the waves and waves of National Guardsmen that were kind of moving in on the protesters, those who were throwing rocks and bottles and all of that. When you saw that, I mean, it was like a huge army. And then on the backside of the protesters, where they really didn't have any place to run, they kind of squeezed them in the middle. I think when you see that type of show of force, it discourages anyone who is expecting to throw any type of objects or commit any type of vandalism. Chanu Hur is live on the scene right now, ladies, with a better perspective for us. What are you seeing on the ground, Chanu?
You can hear right now, they're making an announcement. They're making an announcement warning everyone that the curfew is about to go into effect, and compared to last night, guys, more people are leaving as we're getting closer to the curfew than last night, and the crowd does seem smaller. So again, they're announcing right now. So you heard that they're announcing that anyone who's here could potentially be arrested. We're getting closer to the curfew, and we are seeing more and more people leave the protest right now, and you can actually see the front line of the police up there. So we'll see what happens here in the next minute. But again, some people who had cars up here started to leave already. Yesterday around this time, the crowd was a lot bigger. Some people started throwing water bottles and rocks at the police. And then they shot out tear gas. So I'm looking down the street right now. It looks like the crowd is almost completely dispersed, and people are heading out is what it seems like. So it doesn't seem like they're going to have to march forward much other than telling people to start heading out of here for right now.
All right, Chanu, thank you so much. Let's get now to Ryan Kruger with a different viewpoint there at Centennial Olympic Park.
To have your house cleaned by outside workers. The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This
we showed you guys just a few minutes ago. So looks like that may be it. They're heading back that way.
All right, Chanu Her on the ground for us tonight, giving us that perspective as those officers started to move in on the last remaining protesters who were out there. We saw that one arrest on camera. Now, this is the quickest, most peaceful wrap up of the protest that we have seen here on night 6. National Guard barely utilized tonight. The streets look pretty much clear. Just a small handful of people decided to stick it out, and once the Atlanta police started to move in, they got out of there. Let's send it back to the ground with John Sherrick. John, what are you seeing right now? This thing looks pretty wrapped up, as we see from Sky Tracker people walking away.
It seems like perhaps this is all over for tonight. We saw the commander of these forces approach them a few minutes ago and take off his gas mask and issue some orders. It was difficult to hear him, but basically he was ordering a contingent of them to move out, and that's what you saw Ryan and Chanu show you, while the mass of the forces stayed back. So obviously they have all sorts of contingencies that they can follow for all sorts of situations where they can use all of their forces or some of them, depending on the need, depending on what the confrontation might be that they could expect. We did say one man being taken away by Atlanta police in zip ties behind his back, but that's it. The Humvees have moved into the intersection and taken back control of the intersection. But these National Guard troops have now taken off their gas masks, most of them, and put their helmets back on. So that may be the best sign yet that they don't expect any further problems tonight. Now some Atlanta police officers are returning from the parking lot where they were sweeping, as Ron put it, some of the areas there where they thought they might have seen some stragglers. But this is a good sign. Their helmets are off, their gas masks are off, obviously, and they may be getting ready to move into position for a long night of monitoring what might be happening here in the early morning hours. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, John. You know, ladies, I think also part of the tactic here is I'm sure we'll probably see some officers on those ATVs, and they're probably going to kind of scout the area to see if there's any issues, and then they would call back to the command center to say, hey, we got someone over here on Marietta Street. We have, 123 Main Street over here or there. We need some troops. But at this point, if they're taking off those gas masks and they're taking off their helmets and everybody's like in a chill mode right now, and here it is just 11 minutes after the beginning of curfew, and it's totally cleared out. We see some protesters there who were protesting peacefully. It seems like they're heading back to their cars, and this thing was done in like 8 minutes. And Aisha and Jennifer, when you think about like from the first night that we started this, where the APD was just overrun with the protesters, violent protesters, to now, what a huge difference a day makes or a week makes when you have that show of force from the National Guard.
Yeah, Ron, and I did want to mention that parking lot that we were looking at earlier. If you're familiar with that area downtown, a lot of those parking lots have multiple entrances so people can head off in whatever direction they're going. And it looks like we saw law enforcement utilize that to their favor, because we saw crews going in the direction of Ryan Kruger and some other crews, maybe some Georgia National Guard members, moving along the route that Chinoo Hurd took. So we saw all of them coming in from different directions after they saw that last final group of protesters heading in that parking lot. And then there was also another area of the parking lot for those groups to continue their departure, it seems. So again, we are seeing right now that main place where we have seen the protesters throughout these past few days has been taken over completely by law enforcement. Usually we're seeing the officers and the National Guard members from Georgia march in there and continue a steady pace through that intersection and down the street to make sure the folks are heading on their way home. And again, that is not what we have been seeing this night.
Ron, it looks like their demeanor is showing a sign of relief and a sign of success. A little while ago, we saw a couple of them, shaking hands and smiling a little bit, because this is taxing on them to have to deploy tear gas and run and give chase and make arrests and load people up and take them to jail. I don't think from the perspective of law enforcement or the National Guard, this is something that they want to do. So I think, what do you think, Ron, if this ends peaceful and quickly? I think they consider that a success for all sides.
Yeah, a huge success for both sides, because think about it, their main focus is protecting people and protecting property. Even the protesters, no one got hurt tonight. We just saw one arrest. They may have made a few more arrests. No one got hurt, no buildings damaged, no vandalism at all, and now they are in chill mode. But you have to keep in mind too that, and you pointed this out, Aisha, it is really stressful for them to wear those battle dress uniforms, all that gear, the helmet, the shields, and be up for hours and hours and hours to anticipate any type of possible violence, and then now it's over. But they still can't put their guard down. That's why I am positive that they're going to have some APD officers who are still in the area to see if there are any hot spots, because we used this analogy the first night or the second night, once things kind of calmed down, that once they were able to squash any type of violent protests, you saw that they were kind of chill there for a minute, but you still saw officers going around different parts of Metro, just like firefighters would do after a huge blaze, and look for hot spots, anything that they think could flare up into a big flame of violence once again. But tonight there is relief, and I think the strategy of the military and APD coming together with this show of force really was a good demonstration from last night, that those violent protesters say, hey, we can't take these guys and gals on tonight.
And Ron, to your point about the hot spots, that view that we were just seeing from our sky tracker, I think is an important one, because we were seeing what looked to be a fairly moderate sized group that was still walking the streets of Atlanta. Now, we have no idea where their vehicle might be parked or what's going on. But again, that's something that law enforcement that are there on the ground will continue to monitor, just to make sure that no one's planning to circle back around and come back, or doesn't have any other plans, as they have kind of ended things rather quickly. There's that shot right there. We do see several folks on different parts of the street there, and they are in what appears to be the middle of the road in various sections. So I'm sure the law enforcement officials that are out there on the ground are aware and will be tracking their movement to see where exactly this group is going, and when they're doing and what they're doing as they make their way through the streets of Atlanta. Again, it does look like they are walking throughout various lanes of a roadway there. I'm not quite sure exactly where this is. It's dark out there right now. But again, I'm sure that is an example of something that they'll be keeping their eye on tonight.
The crowd mostly dispersed, keeping an eye on this last part. Ron, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the governor said a couple of days ago that he was bringing in 3,000 troops, because remember, the first night, after the first night, he says, I'm bringing in 500. No, we're going to increase it to 1,500. Now 3,000. We'll bring in more if we have to. And to his point, he said that any violent protesters, which they believe a lot of them are outside forces, these aren't Atlantans, he says they're not going to wear us down. We're going to be here showing this force. We will be here every single night, whatever it takes to protect people and property. And you see some of those young soldiers standing around. I mean, some of them have some pretty heavy duty weapons there. It looks like one had a machine gun, just based upon what I just saw, just a fraction of a second.
To where they need to get to transportation to get home or to vehicles, but that last remaining little bit of protesters out there has not caused any trouble. We see this front line still set up here at Marietta Street and Centennial Olympic Park Drive, which has been the epicenter of the protests. We heard a little bit earlier that they were going to sit in and wait for Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms to come out and talk to them, but there has been messages of peace from so many leaders out there today, talking about the amount of children who were out there and just all of the different displays of peaceful protests and peaceful exchanges that took place. So it does appear that it was not their goal to tarnish the peacefulness of the day by allowing things to take a turn as we approach the 9 o'clock curfew. People really started to disperse. When we went to Ryan and Chanute a little bit ago, right before curfew went into effect, people left on their own accord. That was the first time we saw them leave before that. We're going to keep a close eye on this sky tracker view as the rest of the protesters get ready to head out. Stick around. We're going to take a break and continue 11 Alive News in prime time right after this.
School's out for the summer, and for many of us parents, that means stir-crazy kids. Join us on Morning Rush as we share a few unique ways to keep your kids entertained and your household intact. Tomorrow, 5 to 7 a.m. on 11 Alive.
Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing what? Using my Old Spice moisturized with shea butter body wash?
All I wanted was to use your body wash.
And all I wanted was to have a body wash.
At Holston & Huntley, we know what value is. I've walked away from deals that simply weren't good enough because your money needs to be adequate and now. You don't need bad business when others have caused your injuries. You need your...
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11 Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11 Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11 Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11 Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11 Alive today.
Welcome back to 11 Live News Primetime. We are monitoring the sixth night of protest here in the city of Atlanta. 22 minutes after the city's curfew that's in place until the sun rises, and not a lot of action. We're seeing one gentleman being escorted away in those zip ties right now. We saw one not too long ago, but a largely peaceful protest today. And a scene where we've seen those protesters leave rather quickly as it approached that 9 o'clock curfew. We're going to get things out now to our Chanu Her, who has been watching everything from the ground out there tonight. Chanu, how's it looking right now where you are?
Jennifer, for the most part, everything's clear. We just saw, like you mentioned, that a person being taken away there by police. But for the most part, take a look. I mean, it's pretty much clear. It looks like law enforcement is winding down now. They're not wearing gas masks like they were yesterday. Tear gas was never used tonight. It took all of 8 minutes for everyone to clear out tonight. Yesterday, around this time, it was a much different scene. It took quite a bit before we got to this point here where you see some law enforcement officers kneeling, some are kicking back right now, winding down already. But if you look at the rest of the intersection, it's pretty much clear. Just some media members out here and law enforcement, and the streets are clear. Earlier, we saw one person get detained over here. We saw another person just being escorted away. So for the most part, other than that, a peaceful protest tonight. Really no issues. We've been out here for several hours tonight. No issues tonight. No violence. Yesterday, we did have a brief moment of tension when people started throwing water bottles and other objects at law enforcement this way. But tonight, nothing like that. As soon as the curfew was announced, the crowd started to disperse, walking away. So no chasing tonight, no tear gas. It looks like protesters really heard the warning and started walking away and ending this peacefully and quickly for law enforcement.
Chanu, we saw folks leaving very quickly, even before that 9 p.m. curfew. Do you have any idea? Did you see anything with those people that appear to have been detained tonight? Were they remaining in the area? Did you see anything that happened with that?
Yeah, so we were walking back into this parking lot, and there was a small group of protesters in the parking lot. One of them was saying, and perhaps screaming actually, how he was disappointed actually that the crowd left when they were out here to protest a cause. But it looks like as soon as APD started walking that way, that crowd left as well. And there was the first person we showed you guys who was detained. He was just standing at the corner, and it appeared that APD asked him to leave, and he voluntarily turned around and put his arms behind his back, and APD escorted him away, and that was really what happened with that. But I mean, for the most part, unlike yesterday, there was just those few who straggled behind, who really did not want to leave, but when APD approached, they left.
Chanu, I know last night was very different from what we're seeing right now, but I know that there was also some folks who were saying, let's go ahead and go. We'll see you back out here tomorrow. Were you hearing that same kind of commentary from people out there that we're going to be back, that this is still not over, even if they are leaving early, if they're complying with that curfew, that they will be back out there again to protest tomorrow night?
Yeah, some people mentioned possibly coming back out tomorrow. No one really gave me a confirmation if they were actually going to be coming back tomorrow. A few protesters asked me earlier, it was around 8:45, a few protesters asked me what the crowd looks like tonight compared to last night at the same time, and I told them the crowd actually thinned out a lot sooner today, and so they kind of weighed the option if they were going to come out or not. Another protester who walked by when I was standing further down the street, anticipating that maybe they were going to stay here longer, a gentleman that walked by told me he's not sure if he's coming back out tomorrow. The only thing he said to me was that he's disappointed the mayor didn't show up here tonight to speak to protesters, but that wasn't any sort of indication of whether he or others plan to come back out tomorrow.
All right, Chanuhar, thank you so much. We are keeping a close eye on this group that's now broken off into even smaller groups that's still hanging around downtown, not being approached or encountered by any form of law enforcement right now. We just see them via Sky Tracker, some of them in parking lots, so they may be going to cars or walking to wherever they park. We're going to keep a close eye on that. Stay with us. You are watching 11Alive News in prime time. We are back for the 9:30 half hour.
We're here in this auto graveyard to demonstrate a remarkable car polish. New Finish, the once-a-year car polish. Simply wipe it on and just wipe it off. It's that easy. And look, New Finish restored a deep, hard shine even to this weather-beaten car. We polished this car with New Finish and ran it through 52 car washes.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Welcome back to Primetime News. It is now 9:30, just 30 minutes into the curfew. And I tell you what, folks, if you're just joining us, this is a live look downtown. You see some National Guardsmen there. But when this thing kicked off at 9 o'clock, it was over by 9:08. No protests, no bottles thrown, no rocks thrown, just a handful of people who were arrested. And a lot of the National Guardsmen and APD were ready with their masks, but they never had to fire not one tear gas canister. 11Alive Ryan Kruger is right there on the scene. And Ryan, you have a gas mask as well, just in case, but you never had to use it.
No, that's right. Yeah, I still got it in my hand right here, Ron. I'm very thankful I didn't have to use it, actually. Still have my my face mask, though, for the other reasons, obviously. I wanted to show you this. We walked down, so we are basically standing right in front of the Ferris wheel right now because we saw a large number of the National Guardsmen heading out. But, you know, they're marching in formation, and it appears that some of them are starting to kind of go back to wherever they were stationed originally. And I'm not clear if they are going home or if they're just setting up and getting back to where they were stationed before. But this really does give you a good idea as the kind of the massive scene that they had out here. They had Humvees. They had vehicles set up on every end of Centennial Olympic Park Drive, basically to where they could, if needed, surround all of the protesters. Yeah, check this out. I mean, this is easily more than 100 National Guard members that are right here standing, and we're going to get a little bit closer. I'm not sure if there are any protesters here or if they were just coming down here. Let's get a little bit closer and get an idea about what's going on.
Hey, Ryan, I was going to jump in real quick, sir. As you get closer to those National Guard members, usually they're involved in what's called a formation. So they're lining up, and maybe their company commander or their platoon leader, they're kind of explaining to them, hey, this is what we're going to do next if we do anything, and how long they're going to be out there. So it appears that they're in formation. They're probably hearing from their company commander, some captain or some colonel, who knows, or maybe a platoon sergeant who may be saying, hey, this is what we're getting ready to do next. That's what it appears that's happening as they continue to line up out there in the street.
Yeah, and I would agree with you there, Ron. I will say, I just got a glimpse. There were a few people in a parking lot right over here, but they all, they threw their hands up and kind of alerted to them that they are going home, and it appears they're just going to let them be and head out if they absolutely need to. But this really just shows you, I mean, look at this. I'm not even entirely sure what street I'm on right now. We're on the street where the Waffle House is, and yeah, you'll see, I mean, there are military vehicles all throughout, the National Guard up and down this street. But right now, not really seeing any kind of action, no mass arrest. We're going to get a little bit closer. But yeah, it's
and as you're walking closer, Ryan,
I think
I know it's a weird delay, man, between me and you. But there's a weird delay between me and you. But as you're walking closer, even farther down,
that's all right, Ron.
Is that APD with the riot gear just kind of standing by, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, it is. It's APD with their riot gear. So some of them are APD. So basically the black uniforms are APD, and then of course the fatigues, that's National Guard. And you know what? Now that I get a closer look, Ron, all the APD officers in the riot gear, they're just taking their helmets off. So this appears and I'm starting to see some of the National Guardsmen get into their vehicles. So this just appears to be where they were set up before. So not chasing any stragglers or anything along those lines, because there's nobody around. As I said, I saw about 2 or 3 people inside a parking lot, but they immediately threw their hands up, and I didn't even see anybody approach them. It just seemed like it was just kind of, it was known, if you will, it was inferred, okay, get in your car, head out, we're not gonna mess with you, and that appears to be what happened. And yeah, I'm seeing them get in their vehicles and start to head out. Ron?
All right, Ryan, thanks a lot, sir.
All right, we are seeing the gear come off and the National Guard and local law enforcement taking more of a relaxed stance. We are at 9:35 right now, 35 minutes after curfew went into effect. This is the most peaceful and the fastest wrap up that we have seen here on night 6. Let's bring back in Pastor Dr. Kevin Muriel of the Cascade United Methodist Church. Pastor Muriel, let's talk about how this night ended compared to nights past. It seems like that message of peace and dispersing in line with the curfew is starting to resonate.
Certainly, and I think we need to understand the difference between rioters and those who are peaceful protesters. What you are seeing tonight are peaceful protesters, not people who are trying to cause a riot, especially in the presence of military personnel and police officers. Nobody wants to see any more violence. This is about peaceful protesting, and so I commend all of those who have made their voices known today by peacefully protesting, and now they're going home, and I pray.
Do you think the peaceful protests, and from what we saw on Friday, that it gets the same message across, or do you think the messaging is different based on the approach?
Protest can make a difference. We've seen it in the Civil Rights Bill. We've seen it in legislation passed throughout history. We've seen it in the Civil Rights Movement. Non-violent, peaceful protest. That's what we want. And I want to continue to commend, and I think what we also need to raise is But all of these individuals showing up every day and for all day and long hours, they are making their voice heard. I think that does not need to get lost and that's powerful, showing up day in and day out. And so I continue to commend the protesters. I commend our mayor for her action, and certainly we just really want to keep everyone safe.
And we are seeing more messages of more protests to come in the next few days, especially with the funeral of George Floyd that is coming up, and with the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan being in court tomorrow in Brunswick. What do you think the overarching takeaway needs to be every day? Ambassador Andrew Young said back in his day, every day they met with a common goal with Dr. King to say what they were going to do, what was the approach. How do you think we need to approach this over the next few days to make sure that it's not done in vain? Because it's being done behind some pretty major causes.
Absolutely. And you just articulated exactly what I think the next step needs to be. We need to organize. We need to bring together a coalition of leaders to say, what are those things that we need to get done as a result of these protests? And then if we have certain demands, then we need to protest again. Again, I think protests are a means to something greater. And Ambassador Young, who is a close friend and mentor of mine, and I have heard him on countless occasions say those exact things. And Dr. Joseph Lowry, who's the Dean of the Civil Rights Movement, another one of my mentors, have always talked about protest and policy. What are the things that we need to get done in terms of policy and legislation so that we can, in a sense, ensure that some of the atrocities that we're seeing in our justice system don't continue to happen. These protests must be the means to something greater. And I just think we are in the climate to do it, and it's time to get it done.
Now, earlier tonight, before we wrapped up, we heard some protesters out there via Ryan Kruger, who said that they were going to stage a sit-in, a method that we know was very powerful during the civil rights movement. And they wanted to sit down and wait for Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. We see that didn't happen. They did disperse in line with the curfew that she put in place. But from your perspective, and following the civil rights movement and having such mentors as you have, what do you think is the role of the mayor right now to sort of have a bigger presence outside of what we're seeing on social media or national news, for her to make her presence known out there with the protesters? A lot of people put that attention out there today.
Yeah, well, I can't speak for the mayor, but what I will say is that if you have written, as people have been reading the national headlines about our mayor, I think Mayor Bottoms has done a phenomenal job in bringing a sense of calm and collective to what could have become a very volatile situation quite quickly. And it did get bad, but it could perhaps have been worse. And I think her leadership and her calm in the midst of this, and that's what you want to find in a leader. You don't want to follow a leader who just reacts to everything. You want to have a leader who is calm and calculated, so that, number one, there is safety. That's the first concern. And then let's hear what those things are that we can do to push policy within our city to make our city better for everyone. And I have not spoken to Mayor Bottoms, but what I know about her is that her mind is for the city of Atlanta and the nation, and that she wants to see all of this worked out for good, so that we will no longer see racial injustice in our land. And that, I think, is the biggest takeaway, Aisha, this is not a black and white. No, this is everyone against racial injustice and oppression and systemic racism. I think that's what needs to be the message in all of this. And I believe if we keep that the main thing, then we'll overcome this and we'll be able to live in a better America.
Dr. Muriel, that has been one of the most powerful quotes I have seen on social media throughout all of this. It is not black versus white. It is everyone against racism. Thank you so much for your time tonight and adding value and perspective. Guys, if we have that tweet from Mayor Bottoms, we do want to bring up the tweet that she put out a little while ago as we say goodbye to Dr. Muriel. This tweet that she says she accepts the challenge from former President Barack Obama. She's going to issue an executive order establishing a commission of stakeholders and organizers to examine our use of force policies and call upon them to make recommendations accordingly. This is answering a call to former President Barack Obama as he addressed the nation today at 5 p.m. And that was a call out to the mayor saying what their power is to appoint police chiefs and to have that power over the city's police department. So Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms saying she answers that call. 9:42. Looks like we are pretty much wrapped up for the night, J-Bell.
It certainly does. We're going to continue to follow things for the next few moments. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
45 minutes into the city of Atlanta's nightly curfew, here we are, and it looks to be a mostly clear scene. We do still see that presence from the Georgia National Guard as well as the Atlanta Police Department, but within just a few minutes, maybe about 8 or so, less than 10, we did see that area clear out, folks leaving that area, that epicenter of where we have been seeing the protests gathering outside of Centennial Olympic Park near Marietta Street. Saw them leaving even ahead of that 9 p.m. curfew. Right now, Atlanta police say that they have had fewer resources to help with the protests because 5 departments pulled out their officers, or pulling them out, after 6 of the Atlanta police officers, current and former, were charged for the tasing of 2 college students and pulling them from their car. Now, this all happened, you might remember, Saturday night as the students were driving downtown near Centennial Olympic Park after curfew. The whole confrontation caught on video.
We felt like we were going to die in that car.
Honestly, this has probably been one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced.
The city fired 2 of the officers the next day, and the county charged 6 of them yesterday. 11Alive's Doug Richards explains why the charges took the police chief by surprise.
It was body cam footage from Saturday night, a confrontation between Atlanta police and 2 young motorists near the Atlanta Ferris wheel that produced the evidence for criminal charges against 6 Atlanta police officers. The DA said officers had viciously and unjustifiably attacked the college students with tasers. The criminal charges blindsided Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields, who wrote staff in an email that our intention was to carry out an administrative investigation. Criminal charges were never part of any discussion. As Atlanta police have handled protests over the last 5 nights, they've had help from other police agencies. But since the announcement of the charges, Shields writes, multiple agencies that were assisting us in managing this incredibly volatile time have pulled out, effective immediately. They're not comfortable with their employees being leveraged politically by the potential of also facing criminal charges. APD says 5 metro departments have pulled their officers. Vince Champion of the police union says he doesn't blame them.
But if I thought my officers were, the DA was going to turn around and do this, absolutely I wouldn't send my people there. No way.
And I'm sure many people might have the question, why today?
District Attorney Paul Howard announced the charges 3 days after the incident because he said the body cam video was convincing. And with one of his former top assistants now running for DA against him, Howard announced the charges 1 week before votes will be counted in what may be the toughest re-election of his career. Former Assistant DA Fonnie Willis says rushed charges risk a lost criminal case.
Because I can tell you, if I'm the mother of that little girl, I don't want them charged. I want officers convicted. And for that to happen, you have to do proper investigation and follow proper procedures, and none of that has been done in this case.
But by filing the charges quickly, Howard may have diffused a potential issue among protesters already angry about police mistreatment, and found an issue that may help him with Fulton County voters.
Well, we are also hearing from the legal team representing the 2 officers who were fired. In a statement, they say the officers were fired before being interviewed by the Office of Professional Standards, which they claim is in direct violation of both department policies and the law. You can read their full statement right now on our website, 11alive.com.
We have been tracking a few scattered showers in our area earlier today, and a lot of these have been dying out during the evening hours. We had some earlier on the north side of North Fulton, Cobb County, up Forsyth County, around Lake Lanier. Those pretty much just rained themselves out. And then we were watching a line of impressive showers and storms there along I-59 in Alabama. Those weakened as they moved into West Georgia. Some folks in West Georgia, like Dade, Walker County, Chattooga County, western parts of Floyd County, got a couple of light showers with that. And then we've also been watching some of these showers near Cleburne and Randolph County into Alabama. Those are also weakening. We had some pretty impressive lightning earlier. We're now down to 16 lightning strikes in the past 15 minutes, and that all is going to be dying out tonight as well. Here's how close this is to Randolph County there at Folsom and Lineville, and that's got a little bit of lightning, but that's going to fall apart as it continues moving in. I really don't expect much in the form of additional showers developing out there tonight. We do have some stubborn clouds around, and our atmosphere is getting more and more humid, and with the heating of the day, that's when we see scattered showers, and so that's why we're seeing more of these showers that are developing here in the southeast today. Now, this is about to happen in just a few minutes at 9:53. The International Space Station is going to fly over I'm going to run upstairs after this newscast and do a quick Facebook Live to see if we can see it. Now, I don't want you to hold out a lot of hope with this because we have a pretty good coverage of clouds around. Some of you may see some breaks in the clouds to allow for that viewing. It's only going to last for 3 minutes. It starts 28 degrees above the horizon in the north-northwest sky, and then it ends 3 minutes later, 28 degrees above the horizon in the east-southeast sky. Maximum height will be about 56 degrees above the horizon. 90 degrees is straight up, so it'll be about 56 degrees there at its maximum height. So join me in just a couple of minutes on Facebook Live as I run upstairs to do this, to see if we can see the International Space Station fly over. We have mild air, 80 degrees out there right now, 73 though in Carrollton, a lot of 80s around Metro Atlanta, but most places are in the 70s. Cristobal will get a new update on this at 11 o'clock. The 8 p.m. advisory was showing this storm a little weaker, 45-mile-an-hour winds as it's over land. It is going to curve and move back up to the north and into the Gulf of Mexico. It regained strength. We think it would make landfall late Sunday as a strong tropical storm before it moves inland here around Louisiana. We're on the right-hand side of this system, so that means it's just going to throw a lot of additional Gulf moisture our way, and that's going to keep us with these scattered showers over the next few days here. 40% chance Thursday, Friday a 40% chance, as well as on Saturday. Lower rain chances Sunday at 30%, then back to 40 to 50% chances for showers there for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with highs holding in the 80s.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Here's a live look downtown once again near Centennial Olympic Park. And I tell you what, when we first began the broadcast tonight on Primetime around 7 o'clock, you saw a lot of protesters out there peacefully protesting. You saw APD, you saw the National Guard, just like you see right now. But the difference between tonight and 6 nights ago, and even last night, is you don't see any violent protesters at all. The streets are filled with National Guard members and the media. That's pretty much it. As soon as the curfew struck 9 tonight, the National Guard really didn't have anywhere to move in to arrest anyone. There was a handful of arrests. So it shows that possibly, based upon last night, when they had waves and waves of National Guard members to move in, hundreds of them to move in to take on any violent protesters, that has sent a powerful message tonight. But also what we learned, as you ladies know, and that is a lot of the supporters, those who were protesting peacefully, said that they did not want any violence. They didn't want to take away from the cause, which was honoring and supporting George Floyd and what had happened in Minneapolis. And this is the fruit of their labor. As we continue to cover this tonight on Primetime, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's next, what's the next step. Aisha Howard also spoke with a reverend tonight, Reverend Mayoral, who says that now that we have this in place as far as this communication, this dialogue, we need to take it to the next level so that as we continue to protest here in downtown Atlanta, that the communication and the dialogue doesn't just end with talk, but with action. Stay with us, folks. We're going to have more on Primetime coming up in just a few minutes.
Eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your
11Alive News in Primetime continues right now. We'll be right back for you.
It's been said that to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. An accident affects your entire family. That's why we'll fight for you and your family with the same dignity, compassion, and respect we show our own family.
Live life your way with Crossroads Hospice and Palliative Care. Live life on your terms, not your diseases. Live your life like it's your best catch ever. Let's talk now. Crossroads Hospice and Palliative Care.
All Family Care has a dry touch formula that protects from mosquitoes, so you can focus on what means the most. Off. S.C. Johnson.
Your little girl loves her sippy cup and won't drink out of anything else. He might like it too. When killing roaches, you don't have to choose between safe or effective. Raid Ant and Roach with essential oils is safe for use around kids and pets. S.C. Johnson.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 800-849-0148.
Today, funeral costs average over $10,000 and are expected to be over $30,000 in 20 years. With these rising costs, seniors must ask themselves these important questions. Can my family pay a funeral bill possibly as high as $30,000? Would my funeral place a financial burden on my loved ones? How can I protect my family from this unavoidable expense? Senior Life Insurance Company offers state-regulated life insurance plans to help cover your funeral expenses. With plans around $12 a month, covering your funeral expenses has never been more affordable. Your low rate is also locked in for life. You can also not be turned down for any health reason. We cover seniors with many common conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or arthritis. This is all done with no medical exam. Protect your family with life insurance from Senior Life. Call the number for free information with no obligation. Make the free call now.
If you've been injured, get the help you need without leaving home. Get the strong arm, Attorney John Floyd & Associates. For your free case evaluation, call, text, chat, or go online to johnfoy.com.
11Alive News Primetime on the ATL starts now.
A 6th day of protests in the city is now a wrap. This was a live look at downtown Atlanta. It is now an hour after the Atlanta 9 p.m. curfew.
City officials recognizing the demonstrations are likely to continue into the weekend, so they've extended the curfew through Sunday. Friday through Sunday nights, the streets will be cleared an hour earlier at 8 p.m. We have live team coverage on 11Alive Primetime tonight.
All right, and right now we have 11Alive John Sherrick. He joins us live in downtown. Actually, we're going to switch over to Ryan Kruger. Ryan Kruger, what are you seeing right now, Ryan?
Yeah, Ron, we actually just saw, you see it right here, several members of APD in their full-fledged riot gear. They had been down the road on Centennial Olympic Park Drive, and they just marched back right in front of us here. And it's kind of the scene we've been seeing really for, honestly, the last hour or so, a little bit less, maybe the last 45 minutes, where they're just packing up. I think they were kind of going through looking for any stragglers. Haven't seen that, and so they've gone back, and they're still going to be here in full force. But they've all, there's no need, no big mass arrest tonight. I did not see a single bottle thrown. No tear gas was gone, and I did not personally see any arrests. I have heard some of our other reporters who were here said they did see a couple, but certainly not anything like we've seen before. Now, one thing that we did notice while we were out here today is I actually spoke with the man who his son was killed in an officer-involved shooting. This was in North Carolina. It was 5 years ago. His son was a murder suspect, and the statement from the district attorney at the time was that his son fired back at the police officers. And this gentleman told me, even though he lost a son to an officer-involved shooting, he was against these protests and for the police department. Take a listen to what he had to say.
A peaceful protest is one thing, but being a father of a man that was killed by the police is a bitter pill to swallow, but you must take time to grieve, regroup, and talk with the administration one-on-one. 22 years old, and the things that he did was, it was unacceptable by me as a father, but at the same time, I support the police department.
And you heard him there saying where he talked about how he was hoping to see more peaceful protests. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him after all of this unfolded. But as we saw tonight, this was a peaceful protest. There were no rocks thrown. There was no kind of violence. No tear gas was used. Right at 9 o'clock, everyone went home, guys.
All right, Ryan, thank you. Continuing our team coverage tonight, Chanu Her is live downtown on the ground. Chanu, what are you seeing where you are right now?
Yeah, Aisha, right now it looks like law enforcement are just wrapping up. Right behind me here, you see they're winding down. Many of them are now sitting down and they're just conversing with each other. This was similar to what happened yesterday when everything wrapped up. Everyone started winding down and preparing to leave for the night. But earlier today, when I was talking to a mother who brought her son out here today to the protest, she said she wanted to just show her son what it was like to be at these protests that are peaceful, to show him that he does have support in this community.
We came out here basically, I wanted to show him that he's important, his color, his life, everything right now. I just really wanted him to see and know that his life is important and that his life matters as well.
Yeah, and as a mother, when you see what's going on right now in our country, how do you talk to your son about that?
I always try to stay positive about things. I definitely want him to know, like, what's right, what's wrong, how to overcome different things that he may deal with his skin color, you know, just being the person that he is. But I'm very real with him. I just kind of let him know, like, this is what's going on, this is how we're going to get over it. Let's just stay positive and go from here.
Yeah, and that mother and son, it appeared they were a part of the crowd that left early before the curfew hit. And for the most part, everyone was gone by 9 p.m. tonight, taking just 8 minutes before everyone was out of here when the curfew hit.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chanu, for the update from downtown. You know, tonight, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms says that she's stepping up to former President Barack Obama's challenges. The mayor is tweeting that she plans to issue an executive order establishing a commission of stakeholders and organizers to examine the city's use of force policies and call upon them to make recommendations accordingly. And so today, former President Barack Obama made his first public comment since protests spread across America following the killing of George Floyd. Now, he acknowledged what's happening right now is really uncertain and scary for a lot of folks out there. But he says there is an opportunity to bring about change in police practices, and he called on the mayors to do that.
And so as activists and everyday citizens raise their voices, we need to be clear about where change is going to happen and how we can bring about that change. It is mayors and county executives that appoint most police chiefs and negotiate collective bargaining agreements with police unions. And that determines police practices in local communities.
Now to planned protests tomorrow in South Georgia. Demonstrations are expected to protest the death of Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick. This all comes as the 3 men accused of killing him will face a judge. Gregory McMichael, his son Travis, and William Roddy Bryan are each charged with felony murder. 11Alive's Reveal investigator Andy Parati is down in Glenn County covering this court case for us. Here is a preview of what you can expect.
That hearing is scheduled on the second floor of the Glenn County Courthouse. The defense teams have requested this hearing, and we are expected to hear new evidence we've never heard before. It's cell phone video that stunned the nation and led to 3 men charged for killing Ahmad Arbery, a 25-year-old unarmed black man. It happened February 23rd. It took more than 2 months for arrests.
I'm very comfortable in telling you that there's more than sufficient probable cause in this case for felony murder.
Robert Rubin represents Travis McMichael.
We are asking everybody who's following this case, who is reading about it, who's reading about it piecemeal, who are forming opinions without knowing all the facts, to just take a breath.
Tomorrow morning, defense attorneys will have the opportunity to challenge the arresting officers who brought the charges and ask the judge to see if there is enough evidence to charge the men with the offenses. In this case, the arresting officer is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Joyette Holmes is the district attorney handling the case.
We are going to make sure that we find justice in this case. We know that we have a broken family and a broken community.
Holmes has seen enough evidence to believe the charges are warranted. Some of that new evidence will likely be presented in court. Defense attorneys are expected to ask the judge to release the McMichaels and Bryan on bond. The Arbery family is also expected to attend. The 3 men will appear through video conferencing from the jail.
All right, changing to our forecast tonight. We've got some possible rainy days ahead for the rest of the week. Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb joining us tonight. Hi, Chris.
Hey there. It's that change in our pattern where we've got more humidity that's here, and that mixes in with the heating of the day, and it gives us more of those scattered showers. And we had just a few of those around our area earlier that just kind of popped up and then rained themselves out as they were just drifting up toward the north and to the east. Some of those were in Cobb County earlier, North Fulton, into Forsyth County, right there around Lake Lanier. And then they just fell apart and they rained themselves out. And then we were watching a little better coverage of rain with a lot of thunder and lightning right around Interstate 59 in Alabama. Our models were indicating that that would weaken as they moved in, and they did. Brought in just a few showers here, so some lightning and thunder in Walker County that fell apart coming into Chattooga County and Floyd County. And then later this evening, we were watching some of those stronger showers and storms there south of Anniston in Alabama. Some of those were close to Cleburne and Randolph County, but they're pretty much falling apart. So folks there in West Georgia and in East Alabama, we're seeing some of that lightning there, but now those are continuing to fall apart and nothing much going on there in Cleburne and Randolph counties. As we widen out, you can see here, showers are pretty much fading out tonight, but we have plenty of moisture here in the southeast that will continue giving us some of those scattered, mainly afternoon and evening showers around. Stay with us. We're going to talk about those showers and then the enhancement of Gulf moisture thanks to Tropical Storm Cristobal. We'll have the latest forecast track on that coming up.
All right, Chris, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Atlanta police say they will have fewer resources to help with the protests. APD says 5 departments are now pulling their officers after 6 APD officers were charged for tasing 2 college students and pulling them from their car. Now, this all happened Saturday night as the students were driving downtown. This is near Centennial Olympic Park. It happened after the curfew. Well, the whole confrontation caught on video. The city fired 2 of the officers the next day, and the county charged 6 of them yesterday. 11Alive's Doug Richards explains why the charges took the police chief by surprise.
It was body cam footage from Saturday night, a confrontation between Atlanta police and 2 young motorists near the Atlanta Ferris wheel that produced the evidence for criminal charges against 6 Atlanta police officers. The DA said officers had viciously and unjustifiably attacked the college students with tasers. The criminal charges blindsided Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields, who wrote staff in an email that our intention was to carry out an administrative investigation. Criminal charges were never part of any discussion. As Atlanta police have handled protests over the last 5 nights, they've had help from other police agencies. But since the announcement of the charges, Shields writes, multiple agencies that were assisting us in managing this incredibly volatile time have pulled out, effective immediately. They're not comfortable with their employees being leveraged politically by the potential of also facing criminal charges. APD says 5 metro departments have pulled their officers. Vince Champion of the police union says he doesn't blame them.
But if I thought my officers were, the DA was going to turn around and do this, absolutely I wouldn't send my people there. No way.
And I'm sure many people might have the question, why today?
District Attorney Paul Howard announced the charges 3 days after the incident because he said the body cam video was convincing. And with one of his former top assistants now running for DA against him, Howard announced the charges 1 week before votes will be counted in what may be the toughest re-election of his career. Former Assistant DA Fonnie Willis says rushed charges risk a lost criminal case.
Because I can tell you, if I'm the mother of that little girl, I don't want them charged. I want officers convicted. And for that to happen, you have to do proper investigation and follow proper procedures, and none of that has been done in this case.
But by filing the charges quickly, Howard may have diffused a potential issue among protesters already angry about police mistreatment, and found an issue that may help him with Fulton County voters.
You know, we're also hearing from the legal team representing the 2 officers who were fired. In a statement, they say the officers were fired before being interviewed by the Office of Professional Standards, which they claim is in direct violation of both department policies and the law. You can read their full statement on our website, 11alive.com.
A live look at a peaceful night in downtown Atlanta. All is quiet as protests have wrapped up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
We're here for one point only, is that we want to change, and we're not going to stop until we see one. And it's not just going to take arresting a few cops, it's going to take changing the whole justice system.
Close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11 Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11 Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11 Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11 Alive today.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both? Both. Take this.
Another live look downtown Atlanta, mostly peaceful and quiet. Empty streets, only a small law enforcement presence remains tonight, an hour and 15 minutes after that 9 p.m. curfew went into effect for the city of Atlanta. Continuing team coverage tonight on the 6th night of protests, here's John Sherrick.
Aisha, as you know, there are hundreds of stories, thousands of stories from the crowds every day and every night, including now the tale of two women who decided today they could not sit back at home any longer.
Late in the afternoon, at one of the rallies at the state capitol, two women from Gwinnett County who have never joined any protest, Breonna Taylor and Breonna Harris, tell me they are through watching the protests on a screen from home. They found peace and purpose being here.
And we're just tired of the mistreating that, you know, our people is going through, and I just feel like now is the time for change. Like, enough is enough.
We just want to get the message across that police brutality is not accepted anymore.
They made signs with the names of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, on and on, more names than their signs could fit. Who is hearing them?
I don't know who, but I hope they all are. I just want to say that I just hope they're listening and they hear us and they see us. Just hear us and see us. That's it. We're trying to do this the peaceful way, and we thank the people that's doing it the peaceful way. We want to do it the right way. We're not here to hurt people or harm people. We just want people to hear us.
In their words, silence is compliance. Silence is violence.
If you're not speaking up for the injustices of black people in the black community, then you're just as bad as the rest.
And they say they will be back here tomorrow and the next day, because they say this is now their cause too.
I'm meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11Alive Storm Trackers. We have been watching a few scattered showers in our area. Right now we're dry. We have some false echoes down here on the south side. That's not actually rain coming down. We had some showers over in Alabama earlier. We had some scattered showers in North Fulton earlier, some of those in Cobb, into Forsyth County, Hall County, right around Lake Lanier, that just developed with the heat and humidity. They were kind of drifting to the north and east, and then they pretty much just rained themselves out and disappeared. Then we had those showers and storms we were watching in Alabama along Interstate 59, a lot of lightning with those and very heavy rain, but then those fell apart as they moved into West Georgia. It did bring in a few showers in parts of Dade, Walker County, some thunder and lightning there, Chattooga County into Floyd County, but that all has moved out as well. And then even some heavier showers with a lot of lightning south of I-20, south of Anniston. That was kind of flirting with Cleburne and Randolph County over into Alabama, but those have fallen apart, never even made it into western Georgia there either. And now we are dry here in our area, even though you're seeing some of those false echoes down to the south. Elsewhere in Alabama, a lot of those showers and storms are falling apart too. And then still some rain back into Mississippi. And what we're dealing with is a change in our atmosphere, where the high pressure system that kept us dry over the weekend and for the first part of the week is now moving away. So now we're getting more of a flow coming in from the south that's picking up some Gulf moisture, bringing it our way. I'm sure you noticed that relative humidity kind of coming up today. And with that heat and humidity mixing, that's why we had a few scattered showers. And this pattern is going to stick with us for a while. Take a look at what we're watching out there right now, where we have temperatures that are still very warm. We're at 78 degrees at this hour. Last hour we were at 80, so we've just dropped into the 70s. We still have 80 degrees in Duluth. Athens, you're at 78. Earlier in Athens today, it got up to 92 degrees for a high temperature. Our high in Atlanta was 87. We still see mainly 70s all around, except for that Duluth temperature at 80, and then also up into the Blairsville area, temperatures there in the upper 60s. So we've got these temperatures that are going to be falling into the lower 70s by tomorrow morning, even some upper 60s in some spots, with partly cloudy skies. Not really worried about any big-time rain chances. And then for the first part of the day tomorrow, it is going to be dry, but we will see a few more clouds that'll be mixing in with the sun. So I mentioned that we have that moisture that's building thanks to that Gulf moisture that's heading our way that's going to keep us with some rain chances. Now we're going to see something else that's going to enhance that Gulf moisture moving in, and that's this tropical storm. It's Cristobal. This is the 8 o'clock advisory. The winds have died down to 45 miles an hour because the storm is over land right now, and it's going to hang out over land for the next 24 hours or so and then move back up over water, regain strength again. continue moving northward and most likely make landfall, we think, late Sunday in the north central Gulf Coast. Now, it's not going to have a direct impact on us, but it will continue to enhance that Gulf moisture moving our way as we head through the weekend and into next week, and that's going to keep us with those rain chances around. So here's what we're watching with the 7-day outlook. Tomorrow's rain chances, afternoon and evening variety, about 40% chance for scattered showers. Same thing Friday, highs around 86, 87 degrees. Saturday, 40% chance for showers. Maybe a little bit lower rain chances. We might have some drier air kind of coming around the north side of that system before it makes landfall. But then as it moves inland and then up into the Midwest, we'll see our rain chances here still increasing, 40 to 50% chance next week with highs generally there in the mid-80s. Here's your weather wow moment for the day. Look at this. This is from the National Disaster Response Force. This is not here locally. These are some big-time storms over parts of India that occurred yesterday and today. You can see the roofs coming off of those buildings there. So a lot of heavy rain and strong winds in those areas. We'd love to see your weather wow moment, and we get those often from our 11Alive community storm trackers, and we'd love for you to be a part of that group. Just go on Facebook, search 11Alive storm trackers, ask to become a member of that group. We'll let you in, and then you can also share your local weather pictures, video, and weather information.
All right, as we head to break, another live look downtown Atlanta, where National Guard and local law enforcement standing down as protesters has cleared out peacefully for the evening. We'll be right back.
11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching.
Once again, here's a live look at downtown Atlanta when the curfew hit around 9 o'clock. National Guard moved in, police moved in, the protesters moved out. Relatively peaceful protest all the way up to the curfew deadline. And you know, there are growing concerns tonight, folks, that the coronavirus could spread at protest demonstrations like we just saw here in Metro Atlanta and all across the country. 11Alive's Natisha Lance has the very latest on that.
The chants of protesters, not enough to drown out the lingering whisper of a pandemic still at large. Mask and face coverings show how some protesters are fighting two battles.
That
our death is being justified, but then we're also dying from coronavirus at high alarming rates.
Despite knowing the threat, for nearly a week, crowds of people have stood shoulder to shoulder to demand criminal justice reform. But it's the invisible threat that's causing concern for health officials.
I worry terribly about the peaceful protests. I see some wearing masks. I see some others not wearing masks.
A new study shows mask and social distancing can significantly decrease chances of infection. If wearing a mask, it's 3%. Without one, about 17%. It's a 2.5% risk with a distance of at least 3 feet. Any closer, the risk goes up to nearly 13%.
Are still trying to stay distance from the people, so that's why we are standing further back.
The state is making arrangements to provide COVID testing for law enforcement and demonstrators.
And we want to ensure that the pandemic doesn't spread because of this.
And here's a disturbing statistic for us tonight, folks. As of today, there are more than 1.8 million confirmed COVID-19 cases throughout the United States and more than 100,000 deaths. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
Continuing tonight with our live team coverage downtown, let's kick it off with Ryan Kruger.
Yeah, Aisha, the scene is essentially cleared here tonight. As you see here, still a number of law enforcement officers that are working, but for the most part, everyone else has kind of cleared out of the way. Now, we did know this was a peaceful protest really from beginning to end, and I want to show you some video that we saw earlier today. It was a really powerful moment. It was sharing a moment between APD officers and protesters, both the police and the protesters, taking a knee, many of them giving fist bumps, sharing a moment there together, and that really kind of set off the entire day as far as realizing just how peaceful the whole day was going to be. Now, the other thing that we saw in this other piece of video was just a really powerful, unbelievable moment from this young man named Richard Shaw Jr. You hear him there playing his alto saxophone. He's a lifelong music player, played in high school, grew up in Atlanta, and he said he wanted to come here because of the power of music. Take a listen.
I'm from Atlanta. This is my hometown. Never seen anything like this before. Another reason why I came down.
Yeah, and what he said was that he wanted to uplift people with the power of music. And I can tell you, I was here and we all heard it and we all thought it was wonderful. And as soon as he was done, a huge round of applause from the police officers that were here, from the protesters that was there. And that young man said that was his goal. He wanted to uplift people with the power of music. And, you know, maybe that set the tone for the whole night, because as we said, there was no violence whatsoever. No tear gas was used. It was a peaceful protest, and everyone went home when they were supposed to. Guys?
Well, you know, it seems like it did set the tone for the night. You're right. Thanks a lot, Brian. You know, protesters have been marching to make themselves heard, to share their pain and their hope for the future.
Nothing has changed. What are we supposed to do? Nothing has changed. We have to stand united. Don't you all give up.
We shouldn't be fighting the same war that our grandmothers had to fight.
And the woman who knows that pain all too well is Samir Rice. Her 12-year-old son, Tamir, was shot and killed by police in Cleveland who thought he had a gun, but he actually had a toy pellet gun. Well, she's been fighting to spare others the same pain.
I hope that not one other black person get murdered in this country on behalf of law enforcement.
And, you know, they are marching for lasting reform. But what happens once the protest stops? What happens when all that ends? 11Alive Elwin Lopez takes a look at what one group says is the important next step.
Keep the pressure after all the protesters are gone and they're no longer crowding the streets of Centennial Park.
Teos Wynn, millennial civil rights president, says the protests are necessary, but only one part of creating meaningful change.
Stay on your elected officials and see the change through.
Protesters also gathered in downtown Atlanta July of 2016. It was a Black Lives Matter protest against police brutality after Javaris Kane Rogers was shot and killed as James Burns responded to a call that someone was breaking into cars near Monroe Drive. Burns said Rogers tried to run him over. An internal investigation found no evidence of that. Burns was fired and charged with murder, but no trial date has been set. Fast forward to 2020, Wynn says the need to highlight injustice against Black Americans continues, and with it, sustains unified action.
Just as we commit to the popularized protest and the necessary protest during this time, we also have to commit to the information gathering so that everybody knows how to really address these issues and we can move forward collectively.
So once these protests are over, what's next?
And we have to exercise the power that we have through the vote and through the ballot. Now, that's not going to be the complete all, right? These are just actionable steps that we can take now.
Voting a key factor. But also, he says, part of the change needs to come from participation in the census.
What that will ensure is that adequate funding is reaching the communities that need it the most.
Wynn also says that it's important to remember that change starts locally. He encourages everyone to take a look at your local elected officials and to find out what they stand for.
These protests have again brought up the 20-year struggle to enact a hate crime law in Georgia. There are only 4 states without one. Now companies in Georgia are joining that fight. Beatrice Dixon is one of them. She is the founder of The Honey Pot, a line of feminine hygiene products. Beatrice, it is not an easy road for Black-owned businesses. You have experienced racism related to your brand. So I'm going to give you a little background here. Beatrice's company, The Honey Pot, was flooded with racist reviews after you were featured in a Target ad in celebration of Black History Month. People accuse you and Target of discriminating against white people in that ad. Tell us a little bit about that experience and your experience as a Black business owner.
You know, it was a really great experience for me, actually, because we were able to get exposure to our business that likely wouldn't have happened if, you know, if those people didn't voice their opinion. So it wasn't a bad experience. It was a great experience for humanity to show up, and also, you know, for people to be able to speak and say the things that they want to say.
And I want to say, even before this controversy, full disclosure, I am a daily Honey Pot user, and I purchased it from Target. And so I was proud to see a Black woman in front of a product that I used being advertised when I was watching Hulu. I just thought it was like a cool full circle moment, right? As a result of the racism you experienced, Honey Pot sold out everywhere, which is why you can say it was a positive experience. But now, on the ground, you have some real issues to face. Let's talk about a hate crime law in Georgia and why you support something like that, because that's what you experienced online.
Yeah, you know, because there's no reason for it. I absolutely support it because there's no reason for hate to even be a thing, you know? And so, you know, it sucks that it has to be this way, but people that perform hate crimes have to be responsible for that, you know? And, you know, we may have saw different outcomes for some of the recent killings and murders that have happened had there been a hate crime law, you know, in play.
And I know this has been a real big conversation in the Black entrepreneur circle, especially in Atlanta, where there are so many Black-owned businesses, and a lot of people were the victims of some of the looting over the weekend. Tell us, as a Black business owner, what has been your reaction to these protests?
You know, I believe that people have a reason to protest right now. You know, it's hard to get behind humans that would hurt another person's business, especially if it's a small business, because I know what it takes, you know, to run a business and to, you know, we don't have a shop per se, but we do have an office. And it would be really hurtful to come in to see that, you know, those humans weren't necessarily responsible for the hate crimes that happened. You know, I understand people, though. I understand their hurt. I understand their grief. I don't think that it's right, you know, the rioting and, you know, bringing down other people's businesses, or at least trying to, you know, but it's tough, you know, it's a really tough situation.
Feeling both sides of it. I think so many people are feeling that strain tonight, feeling this from multiple angles. Beatrice, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. Each day, we've been hearing from protesters about why they march, what they are fighting for. 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks. Here's what you had to say.
Hi, my name is Sarah Smith, and I'm 8.
My name is Sean Price.
My name is Alice Stewart.
And I protest with my mom. I like protesting because I want justice for my people.
And I just want to say I hope that this thing brings us with a lot of love. You know what I mean? I hope that's the outcome of it.
It needs to stop all around the world, and it doesn't matter what color you are. All lives matter.
I'm a Black man with a daughter, and I hope that she never has to grow with race, hate, and I hope she has a whole new generation where it's just love. And my name is Sean Price, and that's the last thing I have to say.
Thank you for your time.
God bless the world.
We still want to hear from you. Why are you rallying? And what do you think needs to change? Call and leave us a voicemail at 678-765-9514. Be sure to leave your name and the best way for us to contact you, because we might use your message on air.
All right, coming up, the Atlanta Falcons meeting with the Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Her message to the team during this time in our country. That's coming up next.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. It is time to beat up prosecutors you don't like at the voting booth. It is time to hold mayoral offices accountable, chiefs and deputy chiefs.
Georgia's primary election is just 6 days away, just as long as the protests have been going on with no signs of slowing down. And already, more than 1 million people have requested an absentee ballot. And that is a record number right now, folks, here in Georgia. Yesterday, 11Alive's Natisha Land spoke with Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams. She's the founder of Fair Fight Action, an organization aimed at fighting voter suppression. And she says getting to the polls on Tuesday will be crucial to finding solutions.
When we divorce the act of voting from the outcome, when we do not connect the dots between voting in primaries and voting in the general election to why Georgia does not have Medicaid expansion and why 500,000 people, 36% of whom are black, why they don't have health care in the state in the time where we are one of the top states for COVID-19, then we have to connect the dots. We have to connect the dots between elections of our district attorneys and the elections of our judges and what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. Our responsibility is to connect those dots and to keep connecting those dots. But I believe that if we do that work, we will see not only record turnout this year in our primary, we will see record turnout in November, and we will see justice begin to happen here in the state of Georgia and around the country.
By the way, Abrams spoke about many more issues in this interview and shares her experience as a Spelman student during the Rodney King beating and the riots that followed. You can watch more on 11Alive's YouTube page.
Yesterday, several states across the country saw lines at polling locations stretching out the door and down the sidewalk. This was a scene in D.C. Those primaries already resulting in one major shakeup. Voters booted Representative Steve King from his seat in Iowa, which he has held since 2002. Last year, he was stripped of his committee assignments because of comments about white supremacy. He has also called on to build an electric fence at the U.S. border and made several dehumanizing comments about immigrants. He trailed State Senator Randy Feenstra by nearly 10% of the vote in last night's primary. 11Alive's Decision 2020 team is here to look at the issues that matter most to you and your family ahead of the Georgia primary on June 9th. If there is something you want us to cover or question you have, go ahead and let us know.
I'm meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11Alive Storm Tracker. It's pretty dry out there right now. It's muggy. We just don't have any rain around. There are a few clouds. We had a good visibility of the space station a little while ago. If you were watching us at the 9:30 half hour, I was telling you I was running upstairs at 9:53 to get a quick look at the space station. If you didn't go out to see it or you missed it, it's on my Facebook page. It's kind of hard to see there on there, but at least we did get to see the space station flying over. No rain here right now. We had some of those showers, as we mentioned earlier, in Cobb County, North Fulton, into Forsyth County, around Lake Lanier, parts of Hall County. Before those isolated showers just fell apart. And then those storms that we were watching back in Alabama with a lot of thunder and lightning, those weakened as they moved into northwest Georgia, brought in just a few light showers there in parts of northwest Georgia. Walker County had some good rain with thunder and lightning near Lafayette. And then these showers and storms that were near Cleburne and Randolph County have also fallen apart too. But what I want you to notice here is just a total change in our atmospheric conditions, where we have a lot more humidity around. With that heating, we see these scattered showers, and we're seeing more of those developing now over a big part of the southeast. So your hour by hour for tomorrow, we're going to be pretty mild to start in the morning with temperatures in the upper 60s and lower 70s. By 9 o'clock, 74, a mix of sun and clouds. Once we get to lunchtime and after in the afternoon, that's where we're going to see some of those scattered showers that'll be moving through our area, with high temperatures tomorrow generally in the mid-80s. We just got in the new 11 p.m. advisory on Tropical Storm Cristobal. The center of the storm is still over land. Maximum sustained winds at 45 miles an hour. It's pretty much stationary. It's going to hang out over land for a big part of the day tomorrow before it emerges back out over the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche here, and remaining as a tropical storm. We think it'll be nearing landfall, we think, later Sunday, right here on the north central Gulf Coast before it loses its tropical characteristics moving into Louisiana. Even though we're not in the cone and we don't have a direct impact from this tropical system, it will impact us some though, because this is just going to enhance the Gulf moisture moving our way, and that will still give us a lot of moisture here to give us some of those scattered showers through the weekend and into next week too. We're going to go with a 6 on the wazometer tomorrow, highs near 86, rain chance at about 40%, and I think we'll see just general showers and thunder showers here in metro Atlanta, just that scattered variety. But any of these that develop up in far north Georgia, there's a chance that some of those could turn strong. The Storm Prediction Center has North Georgia and much of those areas to the north there in that marginal or level 1 risk. So here's what we're watching. As I mentioned, it's not really widespread. A mix of sun and clouds early tomorrow. At lunchtime, mainly dry, but we'll begin to see just a few of those pop-up showers developing. And then through the afternoon hours with that heating and humidity, this is a look at just some of those scattered showers around through the evening too. And then going into Friday, another chance for mainly afternoon and evening scattered showers, with that rain chance still at 40% there as well. So here's the 7-day outlook. 40% chance for showers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Highs around 86 to 87 degrees all 3 days. Sunday, I do think the rain chance goes down a little bit to 30%, as we'll be on getting maybe some drier air wrapping around on the north side of that tropical system. And then as that system keeps moving up to the north, more moisture feeds in here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with a 40 to 50% chance for showers with highs in the low to mid 80s.
I just thank you all for your love and your heart for Atlanta, because people got to have something to hope for. And there has to be a way that we as a community and with your amplified voices, we've got to be able to speak hope to people right now.
Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms speaking to the Atlanta Falcons during a team meeting, answering questions about how they can help as the country grapples with racial injustice. Saints quarterback Drew Brees is facing major backlash tonight for his comments to Yahoo Today. When asked about more players likely kneeling during the anthem in the future, Brees talked instead about his respect for the anthem, saying he cannot support anyone who disrespects the flag. Brees received a lot of backlash, including from his own teammate Michael Thomas, as well as NBA star LeBron James. Brees did say he stands for the military and those in the civil rights movement. Tomorrow, the NBA is voting to approve a measure to finish the 2020 season. Here are some of the details of the agreement, according to the Associated Press. 22 teams, 8 regular season games, leading to a playoff bracket, all in Orlando. The Hawks likely won't be one of those teams as they aren't in playoff contention, so their season is likely over. Another league is expected to announce its return soon, Major League Soccer. And Atlanta United will be involved in this one. The Players Union ratified a new collective bargaining agreement through 2025. In it, the plans for a World Cup-style tournament to be held in July in Orlando. The players will be taking a pay cut, and the tournament is not optional. Finally, it is race weekend in Atlanta. Drivers have always loved Atlanta Motor Speedway. It runs fast and free. Maria Martin tells us how Clint Boyer is particularly excited for his return to the track.
The last time we were there, we got off the plane thinking, you know, we're going to battle.
After taking a pause the first time around, it is finally time to go racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway this Sunday.
To be able to go back to Atlanta, I think it speaks volumes to, you know, how we've overcome this, how we've learned from the pandemic and starting to put it behind us, learning how to live within it, right? Until we get a cure or something else. I mean, these are the measures that we're going to have to take.
NASCAR has seen some pretty dramatic finishes and tempers flared on the track.
No, he wrecked me. I mean, he got loose underneath me. I had to force an apology, which to me is just childish.
Clint Boyer says you can likely expect more of the same for the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500.
If you see tempers flaring at the end of the race, it's because the product was good on the racetrack. It's because the racing was good. When racing sucks, there is nothing afterwards. The interviews suck and there's no atmosphere afterwards. And right now we've got a great package going on.
Still no fans at the track for this Sunday, but you can definitely expect a show.
Awesome racetrack for us. Cannot wait to get to Atlanta and get back on this racetrack, get these hot rods out there and put a show on for our fans, just like we've been doing week in and week out.
That's sports. We'll be right back.
Live is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast not enough for you?
We continue to watch this moisture that's increasing in our area, and that's going to continue giving us some scattered showers over the next few days. Also watching enhanced moisture coming in off the Gulf, coming around Tropical Storm Cristobal as it nears landfall later in the weekend. So 40% chance for showers Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 30% Sunday, then 40 to 50% chance Monday and Tuesday, with temperatures generally holding in the 80s. Flip over to 11Alive right now. We've got Up Late for you with more news.
The vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice?
Curfew enforced with little drama. Now at 11Alive, team coverage as night 6 of curfew and night 5 of curfew, that is, takes a new turn. 6 officers booked over the tasing of 2 students. 11Alive obtained a memo showing Atlanta's top cop blindsided by the charges. 3 men accused of killing Ahmad Arbery prepare to face a judge new tonight. We're in Brunswick letting you know what to expect tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock and we're up late with you.
Now at 11, a new night under curfew. This was a live look downtown Atlanta. Tonight's curfew enforced with little confrontation. A little more than a dozen people were arrested. Here's the moment from earlier, live on the air, of police moving in to make arrests.
Right now, it looks like police are arresting one man.
We're going to give you a look at tonight's peaceful crackdown a little later in the newscast. Welcome to Up Late, everyone. I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Aisha Howard. Tonight, we are going to let you hear from protesters in their own words. They've been hitting the pavement for 6 days now, demanding change in policing in America. And the city is prepared for many more nights. Atlanta is now under night 5 of curfew, and you can expect more curfews in the days ahead. Tonight and tomorrow, the curfew is from 9 p.m. to sunrise. Then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the curfew is going to start an hour earlier from 8 p.m. to sunrise. We have team coverage for you tonight of today's massive protest. John Sherrick kicks things off tonight for us in downtown Atlanta.
National Guard troops and Atlanta police continue to monitor the area around Centennial Olympic Park. Everyone relieved that this was maybe the most peaceful night of these 6 nights so far. Thousands, perhaps, thousands of stories, including now 2 women, the tale of 2 women who say they just could not sit back at home any longer.
Late in the afternoon, at one of the rallies at the state capitol, 2 women from Gwinnett County who have never joined any protest, Breonna Taylor and Breonna Harris, tell me they are through watching the protests on a screen from home. They found peace and purpose being here.
And we're just tired of the mistreating that, our people is going through, and I just feel like now is the time for change. Like, enough is enough.
We just want to get the message across that police brutality is not accepted anymore.
They made signs with the names of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, on and on, more names than their signs could fit. Who is hearing them?
I don't know who, but I hope they all are. I just want to say that I just hope they're listening and they hear us and they see us. Just hear us and see us. That's it. We're trying to do this the peaceful way, and we thank the people that's doing it the peaceful way. We want to do it the right way. We're not here to hurt people or harm people. We just want people to hear us.
In their words, silence is compliance. Silence is violence.
If you're not speaking up for the injustices of black people in the black community, then you're just as bad as the rest.
And they say they will both be back here tomorrow night and the next night and the next night, because, Aisha, they say this is now their cause too.
A lot of first-time protesters and demonstrators out there, John, saying they will not back down, and we will be out there with them in the nights ahead. Thanks, John.
Now back to more video from downtown Atlanta today. Protesters packed near Centennial Olympic Park, and they promise to be back tomorrow. You just heard that from John Sherrick. 11Alive's Ryan Kruger spent the day downtown. Ryan, what message do these protesters want us to hear?
The biggest thing we heard all day today, Ron, is that they did not want this protest to turn violent. We heard some protesters speaking out about the fact that there have been bad actors who have been causing a lot of the violence and destruction. Their message was, if you are near one of them, get away as soon as you can. We didn't see any bottles, any cans, anything being thrown at police. We saw peacefulness, cooperation. Earlier today, I got a chance to speak with a man who was so outraged by seeing the violent protests. He came down here to speak to these young people, and believe it or not, this man, his son was killed by police in North Carolina 4 years ago. The killing was deemed to be justified, and believe it or not, he agrees with the police. Here's what he had to say.
A peaceful protest is one thing, but being a father of a man that was killed by the police is a bitter pill to swallow, but you must take time to grieve, regroup, and talk with the administration one-on-one. 22 years old, and the things that he did was, it was unacceptable by me as a father, but at the same time, I support the police department.
Now, he said he wanted to see peaceful protests out here, and that is what we saw tonight. No tear gas was used. There was no violence. All in all, a peaceful night on the streets.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
It's not just Atlanta. People marched today in Marietta Square demanding change. Organizers asked people to bring masks and signs. 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks, so we talked to people at today's rally.
We're fighting for racial equality. It is absolutely heartbreaking that we see people who are killed just because of the color of their skin, just because over something that they can't control.
Hundreds of people also protested today in Covington. The Covington Police Department actually helped promote the event on its Facebook page.
That's what our job is, to protect people, to let them exercise their freedom of speech, and I'm proud when we're able to do that in the right way. That's what this country's all about.
The rally started with a prayer. Protesters asked for peace and unity. Well, tonight we are hearing from President Jimmy Carter about the unrest in America. He released a statement reading in part, quote, "We are responsible for creating a world of peace and equality for ourselves and future generations. We need a government as good as its people, and we are better than this."
Now to the government taking action in Minnesota. Today, the state attorney general announcing new charges in the death of George Floyd. 3 additional officers could face prison time.
Hennepin County Attorney Michael Freeman and I filed a complaint that charges police officer King, Lane, and Tao with aiding and abetting murder in the 2nd degree, a felony offense.
You know, the state also upped the charge against Derek Chauvin. He's the former Minneapolis police officer who pinned Floyd down to the ground with his knee. He's now charged with 2nd degree murder. Protests in Minneapolis continued for a 9th straight day today. Floyd's son spoke at today's rally, and he called for justice for his family.
Now to planned protests tomorrow in South Georgia. 3 men accused of killing Ahmad Arbery in Brunswick will face a judge. Gregory McMichael, his son Travis, and William Roddy Bryan are each charged with felony murder. 11Alive's Reveal investigator Andy Parati is in Glenn County for us tonight covering this court case. Here is a preview of what you can expect.
That hearing is scheduled on the 2nd floor of the Glenn County Courthouse. The defense teams have requested this hearing, and we are expected to hear new evidence we've never heard before. It's cell phone video that stunned a nation and led to 3 men charged for killing Ahmad Arbery, a 25-year-old unarmed black man. It happened February 23rd. It took more than 2 months for arrests.
I'm very comfortable in telling you that there's more than sufficient probable cause in this case for felony murder.
Robert Rubin represents Travis McMichael.
We are asking everybody who's following this case, who is reading about it, piecemeal, who are forming opinions without knowing all the facts, to just take a breath.
Tomorrow morning, defense attorneys will have the opportunity to challenge the arresting officers who brought the charges and ask the judge to see if there is enough evidence to charge the men with the offenses. In this case, the arresting officer is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Joyette Holmes is the district attorney handling the case.
We are going to make sure that we find justice in this case. We know that we have a broken family and a broken community.
Holmes has seen enough evidence to believe the charges are warranted. Some of that new evidence will likely be presented in court. Defense attorneys are expected to ask the judge to release the McMichaels and Bryan on bond. The Arbery family is also expected to attend. The 3 men will appear through video conferencing from the jail.
Now to some other stories making headlines tonight. Let's get you up to speed. Blindsided? Atlanta's police chief surprised by the charges against 6 officers over the tasing of 2 students. In an email to staff, Chief Erica Shields wrote, quote, "Our intention was to carry out an administrative investigation. Criminal charges were never part of any discussion." DA Paul Howard announced charges 3 days after Saturday's tasing. Police tased the students as they got caught up in Saturday's protest after curfew. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms says she will now form a commission to review use of force policies. Addressing the nation, President Obama asked for that change that Mayor Bottoms announced tonight. Today, he asked mayors to make some adjustments.
So today I am urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community and commit to report on planned reforms.
The former president also praised the many police officers who have marched with protesters. Monument fight. Athens Mayor Kelly Girtz says it's time to remove a Confederate monument on Broad Street. The monument is near the UGA Arch. Last night, Mayor Girtz said he wants the monument to be gone. This comes after people vandalized it at a protest. The Sons of Confederate Veterans sent 11Alive a statement pointing to a state law protecting monuments.
Curfew crackdown. Next, we are going to rewind the clock and look at the moment police started making arrests. Plus, a look at the threat of COVID-19 spreading because of mass protest. Hear from protesters about rallying during a pandemic.
We have in the 11 p.m. advisory on Tropical Storm Cristobal, which is still way down to the south. Stay with us. We're going to show you where it's headed and whether or not it's going to enhance our moisture and rain chances.
Look downtown Atlanta, where we see the National Guard presence holding back and just falling back as the night is peaceful and clear in downtown ATL. Stay with us. You're watching Up Late ATL at 11.
With you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to...
Night 5, Atlanta's curfew is in full effect. Chanu Hurd joining us live downtown. Chanu, it looks like we have been given the all clear so far.
Yeah, it's pretty clear now. You can see law enforcement right now just sitting there, winding things down and preparing to I guess, leave the area for the night eventually. Yesterday it took a bit to get here, but tonight things moved pretty quickly and nothing escalated tonight. Earlier I was talking to protesters here. It was important for them to keep it peaceful, especially to a mother that I talked to who brought her son down here to peacefully protest.
We came out here basically, I wanted to show him that he's important, his color, his life, everything right now. I just really wanted him to see and know that his life is important and that his life matters as well.
Yeah, and again, tonight was very peaceful, and as I mentioned, things cleared out pretty quick. The curfew was at 9 o'clock, and it took less than 10 minutes for most protesters to leave this area. APD had to wrangle a couple of stragglers and push them out, but other than that, for the most part, it was a quick night and a clean end to everything here.
All right, thanks a lot, Chanu. I tell you what, 11Alive was on the air, obviously, when this curfew kicked off, Aisha.
So APD tells us tonight, Ron, that they made around 15 arrests. Both Chanu, her, and Ryan Kruger were on the air when the first one happened.
More people are leaving as we're getting closer to the curfew than last night.
There was a lot of talk about being peaceful. And, you know, for instance, this was my first night being out here where I have not seen a single bottle being thrown.
All right, so right now it looks like police are arresting one man. He stood here and Atlanta police came up and detained him and are leading him away. And right behind me here, police are going after more people in this parking lot here. Earlier, just a few minutes ago, there were still people in this parking lot screaming at others who are leaving, saying, "Why are you guys leaving? We are here for a protest. Why are you guys leaving?"
I saw about 2 or 3 people inside a parking lot. But they immediately threw their hands up, and I didn't even see anybody approach them. It just seemed like it was just kind of, it was known, if you will. It was inferred. Okay, get in your car, head out. We're not gonna mess with you, and that appears to be what happened.
And Ron, we always appreciate your valuable perspective as a former police officer. Again tonight, we saw a strong police and Georgia National Guard presence out there, but with a few exceptions, protesters really seem to respect that presence tonight.
Yeah, you know, and it ended so quickly. I mean, it started right at 9 o'clock during the curfew. Before you know it, 8 minutes later, it was over. And Aisha, I really believe it was because of the show of force the night before, where we had waves and waves of National Guard members in there, APD as well. But as soon as it started, it was over. No tear gas fired at all, but I also believe it was the supporters who were telling those who may be agitators, don't throw rocks, don't throw bottles. This is all about George Floyd and not about you, and I just think that made a huge difference.
Starting to see that unity come together in those peaceful protests. All right, Ron, thank you so much. Chris.
We have dry weather conditions out there right now, and when I say dry, I'm meaning no rain. It is still kind of humid out there and muggy, as we've had an increase in that relative humidity, and that's what helped to give us a few of those isolated showers today, mixing in with the heat. You can see this right here. This goes back to late afternoon, where we had a few spotty showers in Cobb County, North Fulton, Forsyth County, up around Lake Lanier. Some of those had some thunder and lightning, and then we were tracking these storms coming out of Alabama. Those had a lot of heavy rain and thunder and lightning right over Interstate 59, but as expected, as they moved into northwest Georgia, a lot of them fell apart. Now, some of these still had thunder and lightning in parts of Walker County, but look how everything fell apart as it was crossing over the line. We were even tracking some showers here near Cleburne and Randolph County, and those fell apart too. But I want you to see around the entire southeast. You see how we have a few more scattered showers that have been developing there compared to what we did have the past few days. That's because the high pressure system was sitting right on top of us over the weekend. That's what kept us dry. That's now moving over to the east, so we're seeing more of a flow coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's going to keep us with those scattered showers, and the tropical storm will only enhance some of that moisture that's going to be moving our way. Let's break it all down for you. Let me show you what we're watching over the next 12 hours. It's going to be dry. We'll see a few little clouds around, but mild temperatures with lows in the morning down into the upper 60s and lower 70s. First part of the day tomorrow will be dry. It's when we get into those afternoon hours as the temperatures heat up and we have that moisture in place. We're going to see some scattered showers that will be developing. Here's the latest advisory. This is the 11 p.m. advisory. that we have in on Tropical Storm Cristobal. You can see the storm right down here, and it's over land. Maximum sustained winds at 45 miles an hour. It's going to encounter land during much of the day tomorrow, and it's going to lose some of its strength, maybe even becoming a tropical depression. But then it's not over. It's still going to move back up over water, regain strength, and then continue moving northward here over the Gulf of Mexico through Saturday. We think we'll see a landfall late on Sunday here, right there, potentially around the Louisiana coastline. Of course, this track or the intensity may still change a little bit. But what I want you to see from this track is that even though we're not going to see a direct impact or direct landfall here in Georgia or anything like that, we are still on the right-hand side of this track, and the flow around this will still pick up a lot of moisture and send it our way. So this is just going to enhance our rain chances. You can see the spaghetti models. The consensus there keeps that in that north central Gulf Coast region. Then we'll watch the remnants of the storm as that moves up toward the north, and that will keep us with those rain chances. Again, the model comparison here, looking for the blue and the yellow circles showing the Euro and the GFS. These are pretty remarkably consistent here over that long time frame, taking that in there along the north central Gulf Coast region. And then there's the remnants of that, and that will keep picking up some of that moisture, sending it our way. A 6 on the wazometer tomorrow, highs near 86. We'll have some of those scattered showers in the afternoon. In fact, here's what we're watching. That chance tomorrow that a couple of those showers up in far north Georgia could get strong. I think we'll see general showers here, and it's not an all-day rain event. We're talking around lunchtime and after, during the afternoon into the evening hours, just some of those scattered showers. 40% chance for that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Highs around 86 and 87. Maybe a slightly lower rain chance here on Sunday as we get more of a flow up from the north side of that system. But then as the tropical system moves northward, we'll see more of that moisture feeding in here with a 40 to 50% chance for showers next week with highs in the low to mid 80s.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Protesting during a pandemic. New and next, a county leader who wants protesters to get tested for COVID-19 after she tested positive. And as we head to break, here's a live look at downtown Atlanta. Night 5 of the curfew is in full effect. The city plans to enforce curfews nightly, at least through the weekend.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every...
Right now, a curfew crackdown in Atlanta. This is a live look downtown. As you can see, there's some Atlanta police officers, some National Guard members, and that's about it. Peaceful protest tonight, and a handful of media journalists as well. All right, new tonight. An Athens Clark commissioner who organized protests in Athens this past Sunday has now tested positive for the coronavirus.
Commissioner Maria Parker wants people who march with her to get tested for COVID-19. Tonight, Natisha Lance gives you a look at the risk of protesting during a pandemic.
The chants of protesters, not enough to drown out the lingering whisper of a pandemic still at large. Mask and face coverings show how some protesters are fighting two battles.
That our death is being justified, but then we're also dying from coronavirus at high alarming rates.
Despite knowing the threat, for nearly a week, crowds of people have stood shoulder to shoulder to demand criminal justice reform. But it's the invisible threat that's causing concern for health officials.
I worry terribly about the peaceful protests. I see some wearing masks. I see some others not wearing masks.
A new study shows mask and social distancing can significantly decrease chances of infection. If wearing a mask, it's 3%. Without one, about 17%. It's a 2.5% risk with a distance of at least 3 feet. Any closer, the risk goes up to nearly 13%.
Are still trying to stay distance from the people, so that's why we are standing further back.
The state is making arrangements to provide COVID testing for law enforcement and demonstrators.
And we want to ensure that the pandemic doesn't spread because of this.
Well, hopefully those COVID-19 numbers do not go up, Aisha, but you can see how that can be problematic with these protests.
We are going to keep a close eye on the numbers. All right, another live look downtown as we head to break. We are glad to report that tonight was peaceful, calm, and now it is clear. We'll be right back. Day.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during primetime. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube. Uncut interviews, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Look, you can see they're all getting out of here now. So just a few left over there, but for the most part, everything here in downtown Atlanta is wrapped up from tonight's protests, guys.
All right, Chanu Hur reporting for us live tonight. We are glad everything came to a peaceful end. 15 arrests according to APD for the night, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess they would call it a success. And hopefully when the supporters come out, the protesters come out tomorrow night, it will be peaceful as well.
We will be there keeping an eye on it. They say they'll be right back there tomorrow. Thanks for staying up late with us.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, station workers, truck drivers, brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make...
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive.